What is up, guys? I'm Mike.
And I'm Luke.
And welcome back to another Meta Predictions. This time, OP09. It's here.
It's here.
I cannot wait.
It is awesome.
It's going to be so diverse, so fun. Spoilers, I guess. But of course, as always, we are going to be ranking and reviewing every single leader in the One Piece trading card game to tell you where you should be looking for if you're playing at locals, if you're playing at a bigger regional event, and how well with these decks are going to perform. Luke, tell them how we're going to categorize all of our decks.
Yeah, Mike. So at the very top of our tier list, we have regional winning. Obviously, this means like, decks that are more inclined or more statistically proven to win regionals, not that a deck that just happens to win regionals.
Yeah, so basically what we're talking about is decks that are going to be winning regionals multiple times throughout the year, not just taking one or two here, but are in the finals consistently and are winning them consistently. And the next step is top cutting. Top cutting are decks, they're going to be getting that top 64 slot more times than not, and not just getting a slot, but getting the large percentage of slots time over time, right?
And then right under that is going to be rogue. Rogue decks are exactly what they sound like, rogue. They could definitely peek their way into top cutting. Hey, they might even win a regional.
Red Green Law winning the regionals in Europe a few sets ago at the very start.
Exactly. So those decks are in rogue.
And more times than not, rogue decks doing well in events are reflective of the matchups or being able to predict what's going into that event and what people are playing. And of course, the skill of the pilot, more than the power of the deck, which is what we're rating today. Next up is stays at locals. A majority of decks we'll probably go over today will be stays at locals. That means they're playable, they're fun, they can definitely get out wins. But locals is usually a 4-round event on average, whereas regionals is 10 rounds plus a top cut if it's not online. And so the difference between performing when you have to play 5 extra rounds, 6 extra rounds, and doing it just in 4 is obviously night and day, especially because at locals, people are usually playing more for the fun and the experience as opposed to inking out every win percentage point they can.
And if you find your deck here, it doesn't mean that your deck is necessarily bad. It's just not as statistically consistent as other decks that would be placed above it.
Yeah, and we see all the time the decks that start in locals go up into meta decks as support comes out or formats get more defined, and vice versa. Decks that start high will go low as we realize that like the format is defined in a different way and by different major plot points than we thought originally.
Next up, we have Meh.
Meh.
Meh is just, even at the local store tournament level, it is not performing as consistently as the other decks in stays at locals. So they're just kind of meh.
It's this weird spot where like it seems weird to define a point between fine and bad. But honestly, because we're so deep into the game now, there really is just a bunch where it's like, I'm not gonna shame you for playing this deck. I have no feelings about you or me playing this deck. And so that be what it be. And then at the bottom is unplayable. They have some people that have been here for a while, like just long-term residents of the space that we'll go over today. I don't know if we have any new ones. We'll have to find out.
Yeah, I think that is definitely one of them.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, me and Luke may disagree on stuff, but we have split the list, so we're gonna be going back and forth on each and every leader. And if we have any disagreements, we'll make sure to go over them as we hit them. I don't know what Luke's opinions are. He isn't necessarily what my opinions are, so it's always fun for us to find out what's what. So I'll start us off.
Yeah, let's do it.
Starting with Extra Booster. Red Green Oden. Red Green Oden is a 4-life leader with 1 Dawn attached when attacking effect that checks to see if you have a cost 5 or higher Wano type character in play. If you do, Oden gains an additional 1000 power to the start of your next turn. He also has a static ability that grants 1000 counter power to any of your Wano type characters that have no counter in your hand. So through leveraging cards like EB1 Ori, we're able to chain out 5 costs way faster and get this ability turned on. When the ability is turned on, we're cracking in for 7k minimum, 1 Dawn plus the 1000 from the ability when it's active, and then our opponent has to swing 6k on it. So they have to start conceding extra Dawn instead of using it to develop resources if they want to hit leader. And then on the same time, we have way more counter power, less dead cards because of the ability giving counter to our cards. And we're building out mid-sized characters that hit hard. They hit for 6, 7, or more with more Dawn. That requires multiple cards in our opponent's hands. And notably, with a high cost and a high power level, it takes a lot more to interact with them with cost and power-based interaction or effect. I mean, combat swinging on them is also just nearly impossible. If you can swing on that, you might as well swing on the Oden for the most part.
Right.
So if you're not getting free removal, it just puts you in a really, really rough spot, even though we're a 4-leader.
Right.
The problem is, though, we are entering a format where the aggressive decks are going wide with 4 costs that are still rivaling 6k power, even just natively, or they have so many extra resources, they don't care. And the decks that are going big are going so much bigger over them, they can actually clear the characters through combat and through their much larger, costly interaction pieces. So unfortunately, he's just not well positioned, even though he's pretty all right. And the bigger problem is a common problem we'll get to as we get to more of the Wano leaders is that we haven't seen real support for them since set 1, with the exception of Hiyori and Extra Booster. there's like nothing else.
Set 2 was where...
Or sorry, year one. My bad. Year one. And then also, like, we got the red one's an extra booster, right?
Yes.
But for a lot of the ones that are base green, this Oden is base green, also splashing in the red now. We haven't got anything new. So for me, we are going to be keeping this guy at locals. Definitely tons of fun. Definitely for mid-range players, it's a mid-range player's dream. Lots of interaction, lots of cool pressure points, but definitely has some mismatched pairings into other leaders that exist.
Yeah, up next we have Black Yellow Kyross. I'm gonna say that again because I always get grilled for that.
Yep. What if I kept all this audio in right now?
Is it Kyross?
Yes.
I mean, keep the audio in. Do it. Kyross. Okay.
That one's for you, audience.
Well, that one commenter a long time ago.
No, there's been multiple.
Oh, there's all those commenters a long time ago. We have Black Yellow.
Now I have to edit this.
Yeah. We have Black Yellow Kyross, 4 life, 5k power leader. Turn one of your cards at the top of your life face up. KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. So Mike, this is classified as a castle or endgame deck. Your goal is to maintain your life totals, to use them as a resource for controlling your opponent's board. You will be focusing primarily on black-yellow top end with your mid game being removal based, right? And we have our mid game that pales in comparison to the mid game of other top end leaders if we don't have our Violas to help us reload our life, to help us KO those 0 costs.
Is there any other card we have access to? Can you play Katakuri purple?
No, because that's for, wait, what? No, so yeah, those are the only life flippers that we have currently. So until we get more things that interact with life, that flip it back down, or just anything that messes with our life like that, in that way, that is impactful, I don't see this leader getting out of the hole for a while. And that hole stays at local. Got you.
Now, first of all, fans of our purple set review will get that joke. Go get that reference. Where you literally were like, oh, I can play as a Kyross. I'm like, we're looking at purple cards. And you're like, oh yeah. Because we were talking about how Viola gets played in the deck.
I almost did it again.
You were like,
I almost did it again. I was just so happy that we had a life flipper. I'm like,
yeah. Wait, and he rams? Oh my god. And he's Katakuri. Now, would you classify this as a castle deck because he's a King's Guard and he guards a castle?
Yes. No. Yes? No. Both.
Next we have Blue Purple Hannyabal, a 4-life leader with an end of turn ability. Lets you return an Impale Down type character, costs 2 or more, to your hand. Gain an active Dawn from the Dawn deck. Now, ideally Hannibal wants to play cheap bodies with on-play abilities. So you generate value, you play them, then you immediately bounce them back to generate that Dawn, get closer to your late game. The problem is, there's not too many that you can play at all. The best one is Jailer Beast Sadie, which is a 3-cost 2k counter. You play her, you have to play a Jailer Beast type character that are usually 4 costs, 4 5s, and there's a 3/5 that loots. They have Banish, double attack, it's about on KO triggers for ramping or looting cards. And then you bounce her and you have 2k counter hand. So that was pretty good. Every other one there's not, because it had to be 2 or more. So you can't do your 1-drop searchers, and there's no more accrue value cards that really exist in there. So unfortunately, after Sadie, there's nothing else. So you're actually like just paying Dawn to ramp and then puts it back in your hand. Now, the one exception here is Mino Chihuahua, I believe. I always forget the name, but yeah, it's Mino Chihuahua. It's the Chihuahua one that came in this set, and it has Rush. So the cool thing you can do with this one is that you can play it, rush it, attack, and then chip away for the life of the card, and then return it so your opponent can't kill it and force them to give you cards off life instead, and then you're gonna be able to play that later. It's also really good in the late game, even when you don't need a ramp Dawn. You can attack with it, and if they need to clear board and non-attack life, you return it to hand and know, hey, I could pay 4, play it again, or pay 3 with a Sadie, play it again. So that one's pretty good. But outside of that, the only really other big thing you have is Champion Rifle. Obviously that card, one of the most powerful 1-drops of the game if it weren't type blocked, one of the worst types in the game. And so because of that combination of madness going on, I'm gonna put it in man. It's just like, you read that leader and you're like, this has gotta be so powerful. And especially people that played set 2, set 3, and you're like, wow, I know a bunch of pretty decent Impel Down cards. I know that Ivankov was really fun. I know that Magellan was really powerful and scary. Again, when set starter deck 10, 3 captains came out, was scary again. So you were like, there are some real cards there, and now they're crossed over in a dual color leader. And unfortunately, it's just kind of the same problem as a lot of Wano stuff, where they had the set 1 stuff, and that's where it ended, and power scaling, or just lack of being able to make, you know, more than 30 guards be really good, whereas like modern decks have like, you know, Straw Hats have their next set of black cards coming out, next set of purple cards coming out, and now 40 of the cards in the deck minimum are all insane, and you're not playing any chaff. This deck still plays a lot of chaff just to even activate the leader ability. So still can have fun with it, still can do cool things, but because of the struggle, it definitely goes to Matt.
Zoro is a 5 life red leader who has, on your turn, Dawn ×1, your entire board gets plus 1,000.
That's neat.
That's really good.
That's definitely not scary at all.
Yeah, so Zoro is like an evergreen card, you know? It is an amazing leader ability. It is always going to be an amazing leader ability. So long as they print red cards, something is going to happen, in which case Zoro comes back. Right now, currently, it's pretty good into decks like Nami. It's well positioned into decks like Blackbeard, sort of. But in the same light, it's actually positioned worse into Blackbeard because of on-play effects that your characters, you kind of rely on.
I guess real quick, so Zoro's taking many forms. It started with weenies.
Yes.
First it started with whatever red cards exist. Then it went into weenie value. Then it went into big game value with like Whitebeard stuff. Then it went into this mid game value with animals in the last set. Where do you think the best Zoro is standing, just so we can kind of like frame the discussion a little bit more?
So this is a hot take, but I think that the best Zoro right now is actually the Zoro that isn't running animal package.
Wow,
Yes.
okay.
This is a hot take, and this is because we can rely on Straw Hat cards like Rush Luffy, 5 costs, right? Other just classic Rush cards that don't have to concentrate or worry about their on-play abilities. And this is because Blackbeard can immediately start turning off your on-play abilities at the most pinnacle of moments, like your choppers, and what have you, basically. That alone makes it feel a little bit oppressive in terms of like, what are we doing? Are we just setting up bodies one at a time at this point? And at that point, you might as well just set up the good bodies one at a time, right?
Sure.
So I think that that is the better version of Zoro at the moment. That all being said, I think that Blue Doffy kind of still runs this deck as predicted from our last meta guide.
It's close though.
Yeah,
it's
it is
close.
pretty close.
As a Doffy player.
Yeah. And your game plan is very linear with very little deviations in play lines. And so either your op can deal with it or they can't, really.
Gotcha.
And because of that, I'm actually putting this at Rogue and stays at Locals.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think the one thing going for the animal package when people do want to play it right is that the chopper is like Brook, so it also has 1 attacking.
Yes.
So, you know, you can just play and have mitigated, but then you're going to start getting value. Or you could like shut up a come me, put it in the play, and then untap and then start getting the value right.
Yeah.
But good to know. Resident Zoro player here. Good to have your opinion.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Red Green Law. Red Green Law is a 4-life leader. With an activate main ability, pay 2 Dawn when you have 5 characters on board to return 1 to your hand. Then play a 5 cost or less character of a different color. So what we're trying to do with this deck is create powerful combos by deploying lots of cheap cards to accrue value, and then upgrading them into 5 costs that trigger multiple on-play abilities. So say OP01's Law, which on-play returns another card to play a 3 or less from your hand. You have Restander Law, you have Cavendish, Untap Dawn. There's just an eclectic group of them now. My favorite, of course, that gets played but underplayed in my opinion is, of course, Bonnie. Being able to freeze a character or freeze Dawn to prevent like a 10-drop drop is pretty good in my opinion, especially now where opponents are trying to tap out for like important 7 drops in this format.
Right.
The biggest flaw in this deck, though, is your reliance on having to have a full body. Notably, we're going down on Lucci leader, which we'll get to, which means less Lucci characters.
Right.
But now we have Blackbeard leader, which has a guy that just says delete a 1-drop, and then if you kill me, I draw the card.
Yeah.
So that's still kind of pain. I mean, I deactivate all my on-play abilities.
Yeah.
I think also like Purple Luffy can be hit or miss. Purple Luffy is like you can get them for having less life, or their new interaction pieces will just outvalue you and get there. Especially the event really being able to like fold multiple attacks, especially in card neutral. And then obviously Doffy having Gravity Blade is just pain.
Yeah.
Just pain.usa. And you know, so because of this all being completely invalidated, and so much more, gentlemen, lower the flag. It is time for Law, Red Green Law, to finally be downgraded to stays at Locals.
Yeah, up next we have Green Oden. Green Oden is a 5-life leader, activate main, trash 1. Trash 1 Land of Wano to set up 2 of your Dawn cards as active.
I gotta fix my mistake from Red Green Oden real quick here, and your mistake now you've done here, which is not putting that stank on that name. Kazaki Oden!
Oh,
Just gotta
man.
help that, you know?
The thing is, the reason why I'm not putting the stank on that name is because
he's stank.
it's bad. It's bad. I'm so good. Guys, I'm sorry. The Green Wano dream is dead for now. And I say that for now because of some certain cards that are coming out in set 10. Maybe.
A set of legs, maybe.
A set of legs and maybe a torso.
Not a head, though. It's just the torso.
Not a head.
It's really weird like that.
And honestly, to be honest, I don't even think that's enough.
When can I get some head?
Not
Chat?
here.
When can I get some head?
Between the hours of 2 and 5. Anyway, so we haven't gotten any Green Wano cards since EBO1's Hiyori. So,
Almost a year ago.
Yeah, almost a year ago is crazy. But
And
yes.
how long before that?
Almost another year ago.
Yep.
So
That's a long time.
Yeah, we haven't had any Green Wano stuff for a long time. And because of that, all the Green Wano cards are getting power crept on. There are just cards that do it better, cards that are faster, cards that are just stronger, you know? So,
Harder, better, faster. Did you not attempt to make that joke?
I did not.
Oh, brother.
That's just the
Just
conditioning.
leaving steak on the table. Come on.
Yeah. But yes, currently outpowered by all other leaders, and just early card design is not aging well right now.
Mm-hmm.
So in that regard, I'm listing Green Oden as meh and unplayable.
You're borderlining it?
I'm borderlining
Where am I
it.
putting it on the graphic?
I'll just put it on unplayable.
Okay.
It's unplayable.
I agree.
It is unplayable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have argued with you on
That's
it, so
fair.
that makes it clean.
No, it is unplayable.
Next up is Red Green Luffy. He's a 4-life leader with activate main, pay 5 Dawn, set up to one of your Supernova or Straw Hat crew type characters, but it costs a 5 or less as active, and give it 1000 power until the end of your turn. Red Green Luffy looks to take advantage of powerful aggression tools and red Straw Hats and green Supernovas to tempo out your opponent with mid-sized characters. Cards like Cavendish allow you to double attack for free when it's attacking and its ability is used in conjunction with your leaders. Plus cards like Star Deck 2's Law allows you to attack twice while deploying a Supernova body onto the board to set up for future attacks. And with aggression red cards like Rush Zoro, Kid and Killer, and Star Deck 1's Luffy, you can smash face over and over again. The sad news is that this deck is all in on the aggression and it's not even doing the best aggression. It's not doing the best aggression in green, it's not doing the best aggression in red, it's not doing the best aggression in any colors. It is getting skunked at every turn, and you're losing a life for this. Similar to Kozuki Oden, like the cost is not equal to what you're getting at this point until we get like power crept 5 cost, or even better yet, power crept 3 cost. So we play a crazy 3 cost, I can't say cost right now, and then attack with it twice on the following turn on curve, right? Yeah. Just so far, there's just no way to actually get this value. Also, like gaining 1000 for that turn instead of both turns seems like a massive oversight of like where we were for the first couple sets versus where we ended up with by set 5 alone. And so for that, I mean, like you can still do cool things. Don't get me wrong. Supernovas, Straw Hats, always getting cards, always gonna have something broken to play.
Yeah.
You will be able to skunk your opponents just like you're gonna get skunked most of the time. So I wouldn't say it's straight unplayable, and some people do kind of like the style. Same reason I like Red Green Law. You get to do a flurry of attacks and tempo them out, and they don't really know how you're sequencing attacks, unlike with a deck like Zoro, where it's like you don't get to restand, you don't get to redeploy.
Yeah.
So for that, I do see the interest in this deck, and I'm gonna put it at meh. I mean, listen, if you can abuse Cavendish, you're doing something at least at that point.
I do remember pet decking this for a while, and yes, Cavendish was 100% the way. So
I want to be the person who has like the alt art OP09 Red Green Luffy leader, and he's playing with the store treasure cup. That's the treasure cup Cavendish in their deck. That's what I want to be. If that's you, send the picture at the new Joy Boys Discord, because we just crossed 5,000 subs recently, so we have launched our community Discord. You can find that in the description below, and join us all there for more conversations and cool content stuff we'll probably be utilizing for as well.
Up next we have Blue Purple Kaido. Blue Purple Kaido is a 4-life leader, Dawn ×1, your turn once per turn. When your opponent's character is KO'd, add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active. So, Animal Kingdom has searchers in blue. So that makes finding Onigashima pretty good.
Yep.
That might be the only cool part about this.
Wait, we have Onigashima.
Yeah, we have
That's
Onigashima,
cool.
and then we're gonna ramp up to what?
4-wipe Kaido,
I
of course.
suppose, yeah. That way we could get our 1
9
Dawn
cost
back.
Linlin.
Oh, okay.
New
Fair.
edition.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. But
10 cost Luffy.
for the most part, with blue not having a lot of on KO effects, it seems a little not great with the leader ability.
Ramp to Gravity Blade.
So you get it like, but you need to kill. Okay, well.
You're not ramping with the Gravity Blade. You're ramping up to the Gravity Blade with Onigashima.
Yes, correct.
Yes, of course.
So you get Onigashima. Let's say.
You get Onigashima to 4.
Yeah.
You get tap on 6.
Okay.
And then you're not a Gravity Blade.
Yeah. Unless you kill the character.
I'm really trying, guys.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to help.
And that's what you're gonna be like when you're trying to cook this deck. I don't think it's worth the effort. I think that it is getting power crept on, except access to all the blue and purple boss Kaidos is really, really cool. Outside of that, I think that there are just far better purple combos that are happening modern that just do it better and more consistently. And yes, like I said, this leader suffers from power creep from the other leaders currently in modern. So for that reason, I am putting it in meh. I really want to put it in unplayable, but because of the cards that you have access to, I think it stays in meh.
It's close. I think the fact that you get Onigashima, I feel like this Kaido isn't for ramping. It's for recurring from your Dawn minus late game, where you're like, I'm gonna like play a 9-drop rush Kaido. I'm gonna -5, but now I'm gonna get one of those back. So I'm reduced. It's not about ramp. It's about keeping parity with your minus Dawn.
Right.
And so I think when you build it through that lens, it feels better than some of the cards that are unplayable. Next up, my boy, the Heavenly Demon, Blue Doffy. A 5-life leader with 2 Dawn with 1 attacking ability. That lets you pay 1 Dawn. Check the top card of your deck. If the top card is a cost 4 less 7 Warlords card, you may put it into play rested. Doffy is positioned as one of the best decks coming to this meta. As the field becomes more diverse, his stock goes up. He gets a lot more food to eat and lots less enemies because of some other matchups that are being created that are moving decks out of the format. Especially how it's played into Blackbeard. A deck we will continue to bring up even though we won't get to it at the end because Blackbeard is a stun lock leader deck. It prevents people from doing normal things. But even though you would think that a card that turns off your on-play abilities would be good against this deck because you're chaining on-play abilities, the fact is that leader pitches cards from its hand to turn off the ability. Correct. And I still generate cards. I play the deck. I still generate cards from the top of my deck when I attack for 7. They hate both of those things. I'll be up on cards, I will be up on combat, and I will keep winning. Suck on my heavenly schlong, Blackbeard.
So what's the rating?
Regional winning, sir. This is one of the best decks in the format, straight up. You got all the value cards when you are valuing. You have Boa Hancock to rearrange your top while boosting extra power. EBO1's Weevil, drawing a card on play. They're both 6Ks as well, mind you. Trafalgar Law, returning cards to hand. You can return your own cards for counter to tempo out your opponent. You can return one of your cards to get counter power, returning one of their cards. You can do the cool thing of playing Jinbei into Law, returning the Jinbei, returning one of their cards, using your extra Dawn to then play the Jinbei again. So you end up with 3 characters to their -1 character. There's just so much flexibility there. And of course, Jinbei, the multiplay king, really just pushes everything over.
Absolutely.
If you are not playing this deck, that's fine. But you definitely, when you're choosing your deck, have to define how you're going to play into this matchup because it's so consistent and will not respect you giving it any air. You give them 1 turn to breathe, and we just control the whole board.
Yeah, and it's really, really funny that we're getting into a regional winning deck so early in the sets with 01. So
yeah, it's surprising that like this deck is seeing new light. Obviously, that's also because it got fed by the new starter deck 17. Yep, that's the one it was in 17. And so you know it gets a little bit up compared to some of the other OP01 leaders.
Yeah, and I think this is like proof to the design philosophy that if you start iterating back on old cards and typos, then your old leaders can just come out of nowhere, right? So,
yeah. I think what really helps in this one is that it's very typo-centric, where its ability isn't tied to unlocking a mechanic with the typo. Pseudo, Kosugi Oden green. It's like you're using the typo to unlock Unrest 2 Dawn. Or Monkey D. Luffy, you're using the typo to unlock Unrest something and then give it power. This one is just using the typo to accrue raw value, and then the actual power of that raw value is quantified by the cards. So I think that's what makes it a little bit easier from a design perspective. I don't make games, but that's my assumption.
Cool. Up next, we have Purple King. Purple King is a 5-life leader. When you have 10 done, all of your opponent's characters on your turn have -1000 power.
Sounds like a new card we have too.
It does, doesn't it? It really does, doesn't it?
That's
I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is an unplayable leader. I feel like this is an unplayable leader.
Well, can we talk about the leader first at least before we get there?
The fact that like...
At least take me to dinner first, Luke!
Absolutely not, because the reason that we have a character that does the leader effect, but on both turns...
You're talking about Foxy, right?
Oh my god, no.
Sorry, that's one turn. That's one turn. I started saying that before you said no.
But the thing is, Foxy can even be played on 7 cost.
Yeah.
It can be played sooner than you could do it with King. Given that, unless you're ramping with King, but like, if you're ramping to what end, right? -1000? What? We'll play Shanks. Just play Shanks. Yeah, this is
you're gonna play Purple Shanks leader.
I think Purple Shanks leader is better than this.
Whoa!
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Crazy.
If they're both unplayable, Shanks is better unplayable, but I think that Purple King, and the thing is, I was a Purple King truther. So no one is as mad as
No
I
one
am.
has more wins with Purple King at a locals than you.
Me.
Maybe Austin, actually.
I don't know, maybe.
He forced it a lot.
He did, yeah. But yeah, so Purple King, I think, is unplayable. Just shanks the character, invalidates completely.
Just from design.
Just from design.
Yeah.
And again, it is a symptom of modern design versus year one cards, so.
Yep. Next up is Blue Purple Croc, a 4-life leader with Dawn 1. When you activate an event card, you may draw 1 card if you haven't already used the effect during this turn. So notably, this effect works both on your turn and your opponent's turn, which means you can draw up to 2 cards off this ability per turn cycle. This Crocodile is really favored in a control role. You're looking to use them very early in the game to remove with events, to draw cards off them, to mitigate that board. And then once you've built yourself into the late game with a high life total, you can slam big cards. So big Kaidos, new big Linlins from OP08, just any sort of big thing. Any 10-drop Kaido, any 9-drop Kaido, any Linlin, even new Rush Luffy's probably good in this deck because it replaces itself with a drawn card. I noted here that like all the new purple Straw cards are actually pretty good in this. On the top end, like getting to just play Sanji to interact with board while building a good body in this deck, probably just fine. You don't need to like worry about Dawn minusing too much. That being said, you know, you don't want to do like Sanji into Sanji. That'd be like a little too crazy there. And on your turn, you know, the events you play will remove stuff. So if you red rock something, you're actually up 2 cards if you put a Dawn on your leader because you minus them a card and then you draw a card.
Right.
I guess you're just +1 because you're net neutral. But then like Gravity Blade, you Gravity Blade with your Dawn on your leader. You bottom deck 2, so they're down 2, so you're up a card. You draw a card, you're up 2 cards. And then you still have the Dawn on your leader to 0 event out, which is the important thing that makes this deck work. You have up to 8 0-cost events in the deck because you have the 4 blue and the 4 purple. So what that means is that you attach it on your leader, swing 6, and then even if it's like a 2k counter, if you don't care about a card in your hand, you want to draw for a new card, you play the 0-cost event counter to counter for 3k, and then you draw a card. And then if your opponent actually swings on you for like 7 or 6, and you have to give them 2 cards anyway because you have a 2k you want to give up, then you're really getting value. Your 0-cost events say discard a card, counter 3, draw a card.
Yeah.
That is nuts, and you can do that 8 times in the game, more with some of the recycling cards you do have access to. Really, really fun. The problem is he's just like awkwardly positioned. Control decks right now that are really good in this game are either doing absurd mechanical things that are like game breaking in the pawns of like they're turning things off directly more than responding, or they're controlling through characters. And this deck isn't controlling through characters, it's controlling through like actual traditional like spells for this game with events.
Right.
And even though a lot of those spells are really good, I don't think they pair well enough with their cost to target ratio in the current meta. And some of that, I'm gonna say stays at locals, but it's one of those decks I think it's like, if you never play Blue Purple Croc, it's one of those decks I think you should always play like once on Sim because it's really fun to cook and realize like, wow, there's really cool play lines. And this might teach me how to like diversify play lines or take hedge my risk with like if I should be drawing cards or committing to my hand I have here, you know?
Right.
Yeah, big fan of the deck existing.
Nice. And now we're getting into OP02 with Edward Newgate, 6 life, 6k power leader, and at the end of your turn, you take the top of your life and add it to your hand.
Notably, another leader that got a buff from the new starter decks.
Correct, yeah. And I don't know if the buff is enough to pump it out of where I'm about
buff
to place
not enough?
I don't think buff not enough.
Oh,
yeah.
buff not enough.
I mean, well, buff could be enough.
Buff enough?
Buff enough? Except
Ooh.
Doffy. Except Doffy. Except.
I am not responsible for what the producer of the game gave me. I am just responsible for the cards I resolve on board in the way I resolve them.
And the reason why I think buff not enough is because Doffy has access to Charlotte Pudding and a wide board that they could just attach 1 to at any given time to just start needling at life. I think that wide board alone is enough to keep it in its place. But I do think that it's actually pretty well positioned into Blackbeard.
Oh,
enough.
okay.
I think that like,
I can see that.
Yeah, like Marco, 5-cost Marco on removal could get rid of your Doc Qs, the Lafettes.
Pitch to effect.
Yes.
I pitched to effect, no on play.
Oh, but we still have access to a lot of other early game red removal things like Nico Robin.
I pitched through effect.
Yeah, at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
Yeah, but
I know your games, Whitebeard. I know your games. 7-cost ace off.
Yes. Either way, though, 6k attacks into Blackbeard over and over and over again is also something that is pretty detrimental to Blackbeard.
Sure.
So I think that being able to resolve cards that also have rush, so 5-cost ace, even though it doesn't have an on play, and can get around it.
5/6 Luffy,
Pretty
so
good.
good.
Yes, still good.
Dragon, still great.
Still great. And then our new 7 cost Whitebeard that could just tap to remove a 5k. Very good.
Still great.
Still good. Those things, I think, make the Blackbeard matchup pretty doable.
How do you feel like it's going to play into, because you played it more than I have, like Purple Luffy, I feel like is interesting, like matchup as well?
Yeah, Purple Luffy is interesting. I think that Purple Luffy can stand on parity with Whitebeard. That makes it very, very hard.
I guess
for
2 new top end rushes make it a little bit hard.
100%.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can multiplay 2 different things.
Oh, with the other
back-to-back.
Luffy? Yeah, Luffy Taro? Yeah, for sure.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous and hard. So,
ridiculous. Why are you asking me this question?
yeah. So, but with that in mind, I think that this deck is actually stays at locals until Doffy gets run off the map in NA. So
listen, is it not fair that Blue finally has a great deck? Blue has not had a best format deck ever. The closest we had was like a few Ivankov tops. And then, yeah, if you want to count duel, like Rebecca topped a few events for a little bit.
Yeah.
Reiju topped a few events for a little bit.
Yeah.
Sakazuki was mostly a black deck. Let's not pretend it was really a blue deck.
It was a Blazehound deck.
I mean, yeah, like for sure, that was absurd with the black cards, not with the blue. It wasn't the blue. The blue cards did nothing wrong. It was the black cards that made the shit way too oppressive, okay? So if there's any figures to point, it's the color that has Gecko Moria in it. There's no Gecko Moria in blue.
There's an agenda here.
There's Gecko Morias in other colors now, but there's not one in blue. Blue has some of the fairest cards in the game. Straight up.
I think there's like 3 Gecko Morias in blue.
Yeah, no, David, what? Oh. Wow. Put him up on screen so you can see he got me. Next up, Monkey D. Garp, a 4-life red-black leader with on-your-turn ability that says whenever you attach a Dawn to your leader or a character, give one of your opponent's cost 7 or lower characters -1 to their cost. By utilizing red cards that assign Arrested Dawn to your leaders, and now new cards for black, like the brand new Hina from the new starter decks that just came out, you're on curve, you're able to reduce them effectively, and then try to remove them with cost-based removal. The best removal characters, of course, for this leader are the ones that can activate main instead of happening on play, so cards like starter deck 6's Garp, OP08's Jack are absolutely perfect for this leader. They're able to be also powered up attackers, which is great. You reduce the characters after you play them, and then you can activate them no problemo. However, Garp is in an extremely awkward position in that even though we do have some tools, arguably we're at the best Garp could ever be with some of the newer stuff. It just still is buns. Like, this leader, this isn't even old card design philosophy. This is, we just ignored the base card game design philosophy. Black and red are very heavy removal colors for sure, but diametrically opposed. Black is cost-based, red is power-based. Red doesn't even have a lot of like add Arrested Dawn cards because they realize it can be too oppressive where they only give it to the top end stuff, like Dragon and a lot of that newer stuff going around. The Whitebeard deck only had 7 beard, 7 to add Arrested Dawn on the way. So, and Black doesn't get any of that. Black has the Hina now because they gave the cycle for the cycle of leaders on those starter decks, but it doesn't naturally have those abilities. So, in the end, you're just struggle busing. It's not that you can't put something together that works, it's that the odds of getting cards that stay on power level every set is bad. So every time we re-examine this, it's always like, why are you here? Like, you're a problem child right now in the corner. And realistically, when you're doing all the work to make this work and actually be effective, not only can it be really easy for your opponents to dismantle it, but you probably put a lot more effort into it than if you just wanted to play a red-based traditional red removal deck or a black-based black traditional removal deck. And I don't know. There are people out there that I know that love this leader. There's people who love brewing in every set. I won't name names. You know who you are if you're local. But realistically, this card is just an abomination of design philosophy. There's just no other way you can put it.
It feels like when you try to fire 2 guns, you think that you're gonna hit things better, but really you're just doubly inaccurate, right?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. So I put him out unplayable. I think it's worse than Meh. It's a bigger headache than Meh because now you're not just fighting like power curve, power creep. You're fighting the literal ethos design of the game. And that to me is a problem. So Garp, you should have just saved Ace. You wasted your potential, and since then you've been falling off ever since, old man.
Up next we have Green Blue Sanji. Sanji is a 4 life once per turn when you play vanilla. If you have 3 or less characters, set up to 2 of your Dons as active. And a lot of people like to build this Sanji as film with like some blue removal kind of interspersed in there. And I feel like you don't really deviate from that, to be honest, because you can on the Brook or on Mihawk or anything like that free play out a vanilla, and from there have access to your leader ability.
Yeah, there's no other archetypes doing it in the colors.
With that said, like the overall strategy is to try to flood your board, go wide, and then use your vanillas and leverage them for active Dawn at the end of turn, or active Dawn during turn, you know?
Sure.
But just some cards and leaders just do it better, you know? Going wide and having access to the colors that it has access to, I don't think solves its issue.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And I think this is another color, we'll get into it. I'm just making a prediction here based on our other videos that I think is like kind of cursed, like black-red, where I feel like they can't figure out what the crossover is.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's obvious to me what it should be, but it feels like they can't figure it out, or they can't figure out a way where they feel like it'll be fair. Yeah. So,
we don't have like a green-blue that just stun locks and then uppercuts them out of the stratosphere, right? That's what I imagine blue-green should be.
Yeah, I feel like blue-green in my eyes are like, you should have green mini-game bodies that either are like ramp, but not as good as purple. It's like they have to like use conjoined value, or they're like, you play them and they're super understated on attack, but they're character based. And then you can cash in those characters for cards like, you can be my samurai or whatever, and then you're playing top end tempo characters that are large and do things like Mihawk or 10-drop Kaido that bounces, right? Yeah. That's kind of like in my brain without like seeing like actual cards what I envision it being. Or maybe it's an events-based deck too, where it's like this green character gets a bonus when you play events, and it discards or discounts. How many different discards? Let me diss you. Your cards. Yeah, discounts your event.
Yeah, so I think it's meh and stays at locals. I think like it's not 100% unplayable. I feel like the cooks who cook with Sanji oftentimes have their own successes, but for the most part, it is on that cusp for me. It is more meh than it is stay at locals.
I would put it at meh for sure. Yeah. Which you just take it to locals, it was at meh. It's just like headache, you know?
Yeah, it's more trouble than it's worth. It's really what it is. So.
Yeah, that's what it always comes down to.
Yeah.
Next up, Green Keen. Kinemon is a 5-life green leader with activate main once per turn ability that discounts the next cost 3 or higher land of Wano type character you play by 1, as long as you control less than 2 characters when you activate this ability. In every game, one of the strongest things you can do is rapidly accelerate your resources, or play cards for less resources than the printed amount. And Kinemon is no exception, getting to power out your characters faster and cheaper. However, like Kozuki Oden, being restricted to green Wano is a problem, because there were 2 core sets of it. The first one, arguably, not the best. The second one, a bit better. And nothing since then. Yeah. Absolutely nothing. He has been hung out to dry. His discounts only work for Land of Wano. It doesn't even say, like, you have to control less than 2 Land of Wano characters, so I can't even be doing, like, other green shenanigans and then multi-playing by playing my, like, mid-sized Wano cards at discount. It just does nothing. And now we're printing blue Wano cards instead of printing green Wano cards for some reason. It's all very confusing.
In my mind, I feel like that they designed this card and then they were like, well, we can't make good green Wano cards now. So
just commit. It's only one. It's only one. And I think they did a great job by future-proofing it by making it like, hey, if you control more than 1 character, you're done. Yeah. You don't get it. You've leveraged enough ability onto the board. Yeah. I think they did it better than most other card games do when they make discount type effects like this. And they have just decided to completely back off on it. And I'm hoping that we see a turnaround in year 3. But because of that, just everything you're actually playing out into the board is just completely invalidated by power creep. The only exception is if you go first, you discount Hiyori to 3, you play Hiyori to play a 5-cost, you double attack banish Yamato on curve, you then untap on 5, your opponent only had the 1 4-down turn to interact with it, which is enough sometimes, but let's say they didn't, and then you can try to smash with a double attack banish. That is the only way this deck can really, really do anything very impressive here, and otherwise, I'm actually putting this in meh. I just feel like even though you can do its own cool combos like that, the rest of the deck is just so middling and your ability turns off so fast. Yeah. It's like I can play any other green leader, basically be doing the same thing because it's a 1-cost discount and have a leader ability that's actually active in the whole game and doing impactful things. Yeah.
Magellan is a 5-life leader, 5k power, your turn once per turn. When a Dawn card on the field is returned to a Dawn deck, leader gains plus 1000 power during this turn. So Mike, I really believe that this is kind of like one of those middling effects, to be real. You gain plus 1k for the return of a 1k Dawn. So you're Dawn minusing and then getting that Dawn back as plus 1000 to your leader.
Yeah.
Which kind of telegraphs what you're going to do a little bit. Of course, you're gonna try and swing with leader in this game no matter what. But like, it does kind of like allow your opponents to kind of peek into what you're doing, right?
Similar to King, this is invalidated by a card in this set.
Yes, it is.
The new 2-drop Beppo gives you that ability.
That is crazy, right?
And it's a 2k counter.
It's a 2k counter.
So kind of weird that they decided to do that.
Yeah, literally in my notes, power crept on leader. So,
Beppo be creeping so hard, brother.
That is crazy. Yeah, Beppo's such a good card.
I love Beppo. We all have a single alt-art Beppo except for the film one. That no one even played, even in like the Red Green Law deck as like a search for like Heart Pirates or whatever.
Yep.
Like, give me one of the good ones as an alt-art, please. Please, Bandai? Yeah. What are you doing? Best collection 4 and no best boy still? 4 opportunities to print the best boy and you say no? You said no? Premium collection? There are some of the most dog characters to get alt-arts of premium collection. Can you give me the full art Beppo? Not even alt-arts, give me the full art one, brother. Come on. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? They laughed at Jesus too, for he told the truth.
So Mike is Jesus for being a Beppo truther.
Yeah, dude, totally. Yeah. Bro, he saved Law's whole ass. He is the GOAT, best friendo.
Spoilers.
I didn't say where or when.
Meh. It's meh.
Yeah, I think kind of like King. It's like not as bad as King.
Yeah.
Right, but it's getting inherently invalidated. Like you said, you don't even have to explain what the deck does. The deck is, I will take advantage when I play the purple stuff.
Yeah.
By a wee bit. And not that much. And,
by the fairest amount.
Yeah, and the fairer amount, or better amount, not fair amount, is just actually getting Dawn back.
Yeah.
Which we're doing at this point.
Yeah.
With other leaders. So yeah, it feels like it's a hard sell to even try to sell this. So I agree, not spending too much time on it is worth it.
It's not worth it.
Next up is Ivankov, a blue 5-life leader with an end of turn ability. It checks to see if you have 0 cards in hand, and if you do, you get to draw 2 cards. Ivankov plays an all-in gambling strategy with other cards, like its own characters drawing you extra cards in the turn, and helping you filter out for your most impactful cards either onto the board or defensively in hand. The end of turn ability you want to really stack. The big combo right now, of course, as the game exists. Inazuma from Extra Booster, who also lets you draw extra cards in the end of turn. So you can stack that ability now and draw a bunch of extra cards in the end turn to have actually a full hand of counter, which
is way better.
Which was great year 1 for just the Ivankov ability, and then as power scale went up, it's like, well, we're not drawing enough cards, just to matter. And then they're like, cool, here's a way you can draw more cards, and it's like, neat. This is pretty fun. We also have really good defensive options. We have blockers that reset themselves.
Yeah.
We have blockers that become powerful attackers as well with power boosting. We also have Gum Gum Champion Rifle. Again, one of the best 1-drop cards in the game. If it wasn't leader locked to one of the worst types, but guess what? We have the type.
No.
And it's better than Hannyabal. Yeah. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
But while Ivankov has unique tools and access to all these cards, at the end of the day, it's not doing enough in the mono blue type, and there's not enough Impel Down stuff. The Impel Down stuff has also been relegated to being outclassed because we haven't printed Impel Down cards in a while. They've been just power crept on, and with the limited tool set, it's like if I'm going to add other blue cards to buffer it, I should just play the deck that has better blue cards I can already play this in as well, or even better cards than these cards I'm putting in to buffer this one.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I'm going to recommend it stays at locals. I think it has really unique play lines. I think you can definitely beat people because people don't have knowledge of this deck at this point. People don't know how to skill check the hands properly for counter. People don't know what your win cons are, especially because there's different ways to play the deck. You can play it where you're trying to multiplay and go wide, or you can play it where you're kind of more all in on getting some big bombs after your first couple multiplays. Right. Ivankov into bounce double attack Luffy is still pretty lethal. Like, you will still get there with that. And just a cool deck for locals.
Awesome. It does feel like that we're not, I feel like design-wise, I don't think Bandai is going back to making blue Impel Down cards either. I really think that Ivankov and Inazuma are finding new life in Revo Army. So
yeah, potentially.
Yeah, keep an eye on this spot.
Especially with the extra booster set, which was the goal last time, was like, let's revitalize these archetypes. And it did well for some of them. And then they're like, cool, let's make the set smaller this time around.
Yeah.
And help less archetypes.
Yeah.
And also, actually, it's just Straw Hat. What are we doing? What are we doing?
I don't know what we're doing here. Smoker. Smoker is a Dawn ×1 activate main once per turn. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost during this turn. Then, if there's a character with the cost of 0, this leader gains plus 1,000 power during the turn.
Another member of the new Star Deck Club?
Yeah, and because of that, kind of a secret heater right now.
Yeah, I agree.
This card is, because of the Star Deck Club, Tashigi.
Real good card.
Amazing card. Amazing card.
Real good card.
Leader lock specifically to Smoker, so like only Smoker can take advantage of this really, really good Tashigi card.
The champion rifle of black, some could say.
In the form of like a really good
How
body.
many times can we bring up champion rifle in this video where we already named the only 2 characters who can play champion rifle?
That is, yeah. And to be honest, in my initial viewing of, in my initial grading of this in OP08, I was dogging on this leader hard. I was dogging
Well, we
on
didn't
this
have a
leader
starter
hard.
deck.
Correct, yes, we didn't have the starter deck.
It was deserved dogging. This man was almost put out the pasture.
Yeah. So, but I was unfamiliar with its game, like quite literally. This deck is a control deck. If you don't want to play Lucci as a control deck, honestly, or if you don't want to play other current controlled decks, we'll have to see how it stacks up against some of the other control decks. There are some tools to help it get rid of Blackbeard's on-play leader ability cancellations, namely Jack and like Tashigi.
Yep.
And I think that this deck is actually also favored in Shanks because it could minus something down to 0 and then swing 6 natively into Shanks. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, you have the problem against BY Luffy where you delete the mid-sized character and then you establish a mid-sized character while doing it. Whereas most decks have to do that. They're either playing a bunch of small bodies that cobble it together, or if they're playing a mid-sized body, they're giving up like 1-2 other cards with it. In this case, you're giving up no extra cards. You're just developing the 5/6 and you're removing something, and now you have the 5/6, and that's a lot.
And I think with the mention of BY Luffy, this deck was actually one of the decks that was pretty favored into BY Luffy.
Yeah, toasted, brother.
Yeah, so pretty good.
Sabo who? Sabo what?
Sabo what? Trash it. Get it out of here.
Yep.
I think that this deck is rogue / top cutting. I think that it could top cut. I think that not enough people, or maybe there will be enough people who do play it that it gets into top cutting. But I do think I have to see how it lines up against Blackbeard to give it a better assessment. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna give kind of like a sneak peek of like some of my assessments coming up here with some other decks. Is that I think there is, out of every black leader that isn't Lucci, OP07 Lucci, I think, just spoiler alert, I'll just say right now, every other one I have on here, I think I put in Rogue.
Oh.
And I agree this one's in Rogue.
Yeah.
Because I believe one of these is going to continue to be in Rogue or go to top cutting, and the other 2 are going to get bumped down to locals.
Yeah.
I think that is the scenario we're in. It depends on which tool set to get around Blackbeard while still being against every other deck the closest thing to a 08 or an 07 Lucci in the format. That's the big thing, right? It's like, against every other deck, you can continue being the same black deck you've been, but you also have to beat Blackbeard to get past that skill check. And if you can do that, you're going to be in a really good place. And so I'm anxious to see which one's going to be. I don't have confidence that I can definitively say which one it is.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's going to end up being for all of us, unless you heavily disagree with something. Next up, we got Zephyr, the Z-Man himself, the first purple-black leader in the game for life, and one attacking effect lets you draw -4. Is it 4? I thought it was 3. Is it 4?
I don't think it's 4. Let me check.
Yeah, please check.
Hold on.
Did I mistype this last time?
It's 4K up to 1.
It's dawn -4?
It's dawn -4.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
It's dawn -4.
Okay, so honestly, we're already getting a dawn -4, gain 1,000 power, KO, it costs 3 or less character. This was the only leader combined purple and black until last set, where we finally got another one. This guy's actual just dog water. Like, my reaction there being like, wow, I can't possibly even 4. And I bet I had the same reaction in the last video too.
Yeah.
With 08,
probably.
where we had to go through all of these and really in-depth talk about them. I probably said the same thing and was like, there's no way. We probably looked it up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not even doing a bit. Yeah, this guy, like, purple, black together should be peanut butter and jelly. Purple's gonna ramp you, then you're gonna establish either spending a lot of dawn on small combination black pieces that come together, or big black, big purple pieces and overwhelm the board. This guy doesn't help with that. In fact, his removal ability, even if you minus everything with a 10-drop Kuzan that you put on the board, is so inefficient that it is baffling why you would want to interact with this card. He's also Navy traded and film traded, and neither of those things help. Neither of them. It's insane. This is one of the most unplayable cards ever printed into the game. Please do not play this leader. Like, even if you don't want to play Animal Pirates, you can just play Purple Black King in his own little Purple Black deck that plays like Navy stuff. And he's gonna do way more for you. Way more for you. Please avoid this man at all costs. I do not talk to him about his wife? Daughter? There's like a Mr. Freeze thing going on with his storyline, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't remember. We can move on.
Kuro is a 5 life activate main, 3 Dawn cost. You may rest 2 of your East Blue type characters, set this leader as active, and rest up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less.
Entering OP03 here.
The overall cost of this leader is just too high, Mike. Like,
Yeah.
it is too high. 3
We
Dawn.
have 1.5 sets of East Blue cards.
Yeah.
Is what it?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the last time you received an East Blue card since EB01 was actually in this set.
Wait, we do? We have one?
Yeah,
Who's in
1
here?
cost Nami, blue.
Oh, goated! You can't even play it.
You can't even play it, guys.
I was like, what is he talking about,
Yeah,
Chad?
no, and like the cost of having to rest 3 Dawn or spend 3 Dawn, and then rest 2 of your characters, your 2 East Blue characters that you have to run. By the way,
Have to.
Rest a target of 5 or less. Bro, just play Hody Jones character.
I want to interject here.
Okay.
And say, I feel like we're getting really negative, and there's a
Okay.
lot to be negative about.
Okay.
I do think this leader mechanically is not the worst thing ever.
Okay.
I think we just give him the most dog card pool.
Fair.
I think like even the ones we have, it's like there's not enough on play value generating to then want to rest them and like treat it like a you can be my samurai type combination player, like what Perona tries to do in a lot of cases. I just want to jump in, just interrupt and just kind of like retrack it because it's fun to dog on things.
Sure.
It's very fun to dog on things. I do believe though that actually this leader's shortcomings are not actually the leader design fault where a lot of other leaders lie. It is actually more so the card pool.
The card pool.
At fault.
Okay.
Even from the moment it dropped. Because some of these other ones, right? Green Kozuki Oden, it wasn't the best deck, but it could play in set 1. Green Kinemon, it was showing up in events through 02 and 03. They only stopped when the card pool dried up. And this one barely had the card pool to start.
It was dead on arrival.
Pretty much.
Yeah. My counter argument is backlight costs 2. 2 Dawn. And
I pay at least
rest of 5.
3 Dawn for my back shots.
So I think this is unplayable.
I'm gonna argue this is meh.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I think we have to put it unplayable because the card pool is that dog.
Yeah.
I agree. But I think the leader itself is meh, but the package, which is what we inevitably graded on as a whole, means we have to put it unplayable.
Okay.
But EBO2, maybe?
What are we getting in EBO2?
I don't know. It's pre-time skip Straw Hats. Maybe it's East Blue. Is the Nami East Blue? Is the Zoro East Blue? They look like they're East Blue.
Are they
They're green. They are green.
They're green?
Yeah, remember Red Green Lost Stonks go burr. That's a Nami searcher that doesn't search just for green cards. So I'm just saying like there's opportunity is my point, right?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, see this video in 2 years when they have the best East Blue cards.
I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Most of the cards you even had to play in this deck were designed for the Arlong deck.
Yeah.
Next up for our 03 leaders is Red Ace. Red Ace is a 5-color leader with an on attack or when your opponent is attacking an ability that lets you trash an event card from your hand to give it an extra 1,000 power, and you can do multiple cards on this trigger, so it's 1,000 power per card for this battle. This effect isn't particularly powerful based on just like, oh, it's doing something really powerful, but it does lend the leader to doing something that is inherently powerful compared to other leaders, which is leveraging lots of events and event interaction without the drawback of having to have bricked hands when you're not leaving Dawn up, or for the ones that don't even provide counter power, coupled with the access to Whitebeard exclusive card. Ace is also great because it can be built to be played many ways. You can play it aggro, you can play it mid-range, you can play it control. All are valid, all are good in their own way, and there's not necessarily like a predetermined way you have to play the card, which means it's a deck builder's dream, and it can be malleable for the format. My opinion in general, and I talk about this every time, is that Ace is only as good as Fire Fist is. That is the starting point. And I gotta say, we're kind of back. Blackbeard targets, clean. Doffy targets, near clean. Luffy targets, not the best.
A little bit harder.
No, a little bit harder, but you're still chilling. The Frankie is a 5,000 block.
Yeah.
Which is relevant.
Yeah.
You reduce something else in there. Onami, under. So you can blow up, you can reduce a big thing, get the with the Onami. You can get the Onami and a 5K.
Yeah.
There's like nice combos there where
you could double remove the blockers, the Onami and the Robin.
Yeah. It's not like the worst situation.
Yeah.
And those are just like a few decks on top of the head that's like, we're gonna be interacting here, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of all that, right, we have some new support. We have ST15's cards. We have the 7-beard.
Yeah.
Pretty great with
Very
the
good.
power reduction.
Yeah.
Great into board. We have the Rush Ace that's sticky on board.
Very
the
good.
Marcos that are all sticky on board.
Yep.
So we're definitely up. We're definitely up. And we have 10 cost Shanks.
Yeah.
We can just literally play 10 cost Shanks,
Yeah.
which is a boss card that then reduces the board to then interact with our interaction events, which is all good. And those cards will never be dead. So I'm still gonna be fair. I'm not gonna let the bias take over. I feel like this is the most fair rankings I've ever done so far because I really, really been thinking about the OP09 format recently.
Yes, yeah.
And I think it just still stays at locals, but I think it's feeling a lot better coming into what other people are playing this set versus what people were playing deck composition wise in the last set. And you know, I'm not saying like this deck is going to suddenly take over if I'm wrong, but you know, you could convince me, you could argue with me that this deck will take a top 64 at some point somewhere, and I can see it because all the pieces are there to do it. It's just a lot more matchup dependent where I'm not gonna bet on it.
Yeah. And honestly, Mike, I think putting in Red Hawk also helps it for the matchup. I think you could meta call with this deck. So
totally.
I do not see it as like I don't see it as an impossibility that it would be Rogue.
Just improbability.
Yeah, just improbable.
Yeah.
It takes a real good cook. Nami is a 5-life blue leader. When deck count hits 0, you win the game. Dawn ×1, when this leader's attack deals damage to your opponent's life, you may trash 1 card from the top of your deck. This leader will be around for as long as this game is played, I think.
Yep.
I think that we will always have to watch out for this leader. We will always have to know that it is around. It's always just sneaking in the shadows. And I think that this leader with the new 1-cost Nami actually helps leverage it really, really well against other
well, the mirror match
control
for
decks.
start. Mirror match for start.
One for the mirror match. And then I think what really, really hurts it right now, and that everybody's kind of clocking it too, is Blackbeard, of course.
Yeah.
Blackbeard decides that, hey, you don't get to win on my turn. You have to set it up properly to win on your turn. And that makes it so that the Nami cooks have to now also cook new playstyle ways and new tempo strats, right?
Yeah, and they can't just like also not lose and go to 0 cards because the game will just end there and they will lose.
Yes.
It's not like it's like I can go to 0 and I just won't win because I have to play this jet pistol. What's the one drop 4K? Giant Gavel, or playing the rubber band, who stops rubber band to do, right? You can't just be like, okay, well, you negated my leader and I'll counter out with these and not die. It's like, well, if you go to 0, you will still die. You will just lose the game.
Yeah.
So that's also a problem. But I got a cute couple of words for you to counterpoint. Murder in the steam bath.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Which is really good.
Very, very good.
Very
card.
underrated.
Yeah, very cool card for Nami. So I can see people cooking that. That's a really good card. And I think, the mirror is a little less miserable now. Now that you have 1-cost Nami. So this deck is always going to be Rogue until it is top cutting.
Yeah, it will never be anything in between.
Yeah.
It'll be Rogue top cut. It'll be Rogue. I think it's even different than that. I think it is Rogue or regional winning.
Yes.
It's one or the other. Because even when it's top cutting multiple times, it's only ever like 1 or 2 players, which to me like doesn't cross it. It's the same thing as like you just won the ladder for that day, where it's like when there was like 1 Yamato, 2 Yamatos every single regional, it's like, well, yeah, you just were the Yamato player that won the Yamato lottery for the day. Like, Yamato is not consistently top cutting. Just 1 player gets there because they won the matchup lottery. Yeah. That's it, you know? So, yeah, I think it's either regional winning or it's Rogue, and that's all it will ever be, unless we get, like, a bunch of, like, other dueling alt-win condition decks that, like, start to diversify how we have to approach those matchups, because you have to choose one over the other, maybe.
Yeah.
Luke. If there is 100 Arlong players in the world, I am one of them.
If there are 0?
I am dead. Arlong is a 4-life green-yellow leader that has Dawn 2 when attacking. This is pay 1 Dawn, just like Blue Doffy. Must be great. To play a trigger character, but it costs a 4 or less from your hand. The strength of Arlong is twofold. First is the deck composed of many triggers, because you want to be able to play them from your hand, which means your life is deadlier than ever. The second is being able to cheat cards onto the board while threatening with large attacks. Just like Blue Doffy. Must be great. Wrong. Absolutely wrong, brother. You even have like really cool interaction pieces that are unique, like Jin with the resting, or Kuro with the resting, or the additional attack, which is pretty crazy. But this deck is too fair. Way too fair. Capping it at 4 cost is too great. We don't even have a lot of 4/6s to do. Yeah. Which is the hard part. The last time we got support for this was OP06's Akazaya cards. The set of triggers from that, which are all the yellow ones. Okiku. The Cat Viper, the Okiku, or it's like Kiku Nojo, actually.
Kiku Nojo,
Dogstorm.
Yeah.
I didn't say the right name, but I call him Dogstorm.
Yeah, Inurashi. Yeah.
And all those cards are just good enough to keep you in the game without winning, which is honestly more miserable. That being said, he's just too soft to a leader at 4. He's not going to accrue like on play value. Like these trigger cards don't on play do something. You're not like, Doffy cheats stuff in the play and they do something. These cards cheat in the play and they prepare to do something. And that's not, and the few that do something are understated. Like the one thing that isn't is like, that's like decent, is you can cheat in the 2-cost Onami and gain banish during that attack while building a body, which is like, it's pretty okay, but it's still understated.
Or the ones that are doing something on play are cost 5 up, right? So
yeah, but I'm saying, or they're under power stats, right?
Yeah.
So you can cheat in like there's a Fishman one that rests, but I think he's a 3,000 power.
Yeah.
It's like okay, cool. What do you do now? What's happening now? So it's just doing the worst of both ends. I'm always gonna cook with this leader. It just is such a fun ability to want to play, but unfortunately, you just gotta keep it at locals. You can definitely smash people at locals. There are decks that cannot deal with that level of aggression so fast because it just starts on 3 and just builds consistently good cards. Obviously, if you really like that playstyle, I would say try Blue Doffy.
It's kind of like the Belo Betty effect, right? So
no, not even. I feel like your opponent doesn't have as much control over how good your game is, which is that. And I do use that reference for another leader during this guide, which we'll get to.
Nice.
But yeah, keep it out local, smash your opponents, have fun with it. Do not think you are the best deck in the house, though, ever. You will get folded enough times to teach you that.
You're just a man.
You're just a shark.
Black Yellow Linlin is next with 4 life, Black Yellow leader. Dawn ×2, when attacking, pay 2, trash 1 card from your hand. If you have 1 or less life, heal 1 to the top of your life. The price for activation is just too high on this leader, and it's just not immediately online. You are required to take, you're required to meet a threshold, you know? And we're building this deck to be a fortress. We're using Sabo to stay afloat, draw 2, pitch 1, draw our top end, right?
Get protection to protect what you already invested in.
Exactly. We're running searchers that will whiff the other cards in our deck, which is...
Yeah, proud about that.
Yeah. Which is like kind of the curse of the dual color decks anyway. If you're leaning on one side more than the other. The 6-cost Big Mom that I talked about in our last meta prediction video, is kind of cooking, but I thought it was cooking. But I don't.
She's only
think
on the
so.
appetizer. She's not making the entrees.
Yeah. Gecko Moria is probably the best card that we could use for this deck outside of our 10-cost Linlin, and that is for the same reasons that you would do it in. I'm gonna spoiler alert. I'm not gonna mention that guy.
Why don't you say it to me and I'll just bleep it?
Yeah. In.
Whoa! Yeah. He just said that word. That's crazy.
Said the word. Anyway, but
canceled.
You play your blockers early. Hopefully, you're going second, right? You play your blockers early. You go ahead and block freely with with Porcelino. Sorry, you play your Kuzans, right? And then you don't care if they get removed because you're gonna play Gecko Moria later and bring them back on board, along with like maybe a searcher or something, or like some cost reduction.
And what happens if you have to go first?
You cry. You cry. You cry. I guess. Well, it's not so bad because you.
But it's pretty not great.
It's pretty not great, right? And I think that you're not really fighting well in the mid game either. So in a world where mid tempo is just so rampant, it's just really, really hard to perform with this deck. I cook this deck every single set.
Yeah, you do.
Just to make sure that, like, hey, are we good? Are you where I left you?
Are we there yet?
Yeah, we're not. Yeah.
Are we there yet?
So I believe that this deck, though, is not unplayable. I don't think it's meh. I think it is stay at locals.
Yeah, just a low stays at locals. Zap Bird, still a great interaction point in that deck. Like, you will just outvalue people on that card alone.
Yeah.
And, I think that as we continue to grow like the interesting yellow pool stuff. Like, have you tried the Lucy in that deck? I feel like Lucy
is
might
one of
be
those
like
cards.
really interesting.
Yeah, Lucy is one of those cards that I've been seeing crop up a lot lately, especially in like Asian lists right now.
Yeah, there's an NL deck that just topped with Lucy.
I just saw that.
Yeah.
And it is crazy.
Yeah. But I'm looking at that deck because it's card selection, it's interaction, and it's life interaction, right? So if you start manipulating your life, you're like, I know it's there. Maybe because you may be playing like a new blocker Katakuri, right?
Yeah. It's one of those cards that like, that deck specifically is one of those decks where you're overtuned to like finding your exact pieces. Digression. But
you're too good at your job.
Yeah.
I can't hire you. Love that. All the millennials out there will get that joke. Iceburg is a 5-life purple leader that can't attack, but with a once per turn activate main ability, lets you rest the leader in Dawn -1 to play one Galley Law Company character with a cost of 5 or less from your hand. Iceburg plans to quickly accelerate in the high cost characters to pump onto the board, going wider than any other deck with mid-sized characters in the game. These guys also have plenty of on-play abilities for triggers, or when attacking Dawn Minus to get bonus effects like Resting and Banish. The characters played off Iceburg generate all this advantage backed by ramp of Galley Law Company, which is Onigashima for the Galley Law type leader, and because of all the value you're generating, whether it's card draw or ramp, while pressuring the opponent with large bodies they must respect, you can also play high leverage cards like Vinsmoke Reiju and Rush Kaido to really push them over the edge. I would also like to mention that Sanji and Luffy are also really good in this deck as well from OP09. This deck just houses all the good purple cards somehow, even though no one gets to play him. And why do you not get to play him? It's because he can't attack. And at the end of the day, when your opponent plays black and removes all your stuff, when your opponent plays Doffy and Gravity Blades all your stuff, and you have nothing to do and they're at 0 life and you can't attack them, you will cry.
Yeah.
It's pretty miserable.
Feels bad.
I will always be cooking Iceburg. We know we're getting at least one card in EBO2 now. That card's really good, in my opinion, and can only be better if there's even one decent card other than him in there. But unfortunately, this is a hard stays at locals. This is not one of those decks, like, not because of the format, just because of how I think like this deck is so mechanically primed. It just like, for some reason, just can't cross the finish line where like, if you just go like, Mike, Iceburg just top 64 regionals, I'd be like, bless that man. Like, he rolled the dice and he proved everyone wrong. Unlike that dude who primed everyone for Nationals that he was going to play Iceburg and then cheaped out in the last second. I don't care that he topped. Yeah. Coward. I'm a man of my word. Okay? Who are you? Huh? Who are you?
Guy.
I'm sure he's a lovely guy. But
probably.
Still pissed me off. Just to tarnish my love.
Charlotte Katakuri is a 5-life yellow leader with Dawn ×1 when attacking. Look at the top of either your life or opponent's life and either leave it at the top or bottom and then gain +1k. I love this deck. You know I love this deck.
Yeah, day oneer max rarity.
Day oneer max rarity. I spent a lot of money on this deck.
You got a bad pudding off me for $90 trade value.
I did that.
When you even said to me, Mike, I know this card's gonna be 50 in like a month.
Yep.
And I said, you don't have to pick it up. And you said,
I want it though.
And that's how addiction begins.
Yeah, this deck is, with the rise of like Blackbeard and Shanks, Katakuri is actually able to take shots at their life by just playing Tezcat's Big Mom, which is pretty good. And also, with the Dawn Equip 1, when attacking, it gets over Shanks' native ability to -1.
Really good.
Which is pretty cool. We can start running Okiku again, because one RP Law is gone. But also
RP Law?
RP Law.
RAR XDP Law?
But we also can't be running Okiku again, because Trafalgar Law forecast exists, bouncing our targets.
I think it's worth it. It's one matchup.
I think it is.
I think it's worth it.
It's one matchup, but it's kind of the worst matchup. Because, yeah, Trafalgar Law bounces basically all of your early game cards that help apply pressure onto our opponent. Amaru is still a pretty good card to utilize in this deck.
Amaru real good.
Amaru is really, really
Blade
good.
Slice real good.
Yep, Blade Slice really good. And being able to 0 cost, you should be the one to disappear. With Hiyori, set it to the top or set it to, like, move it to the bottom.
The top when you're at 1 life.
Yeah, top when you're at 1 life. Move it to the bottom, all that. Yeah. You know, is pretty good. But it is just really, really hard to get over Doflamingo. So for that, I actually think Katakuri might be Rogue though.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Say why.
I think that it's favored into everything else, and with Lucci kind of taking a backseat this format in terms of what we hear other people say.
Sure.
Right? I think with Lucci taking a backseat, this could actually land its 10 costs and be able to change them. Yeah.
I think the 6 bomb's also really good in this deck.
Yes.
I think contrary to belief, it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that like there's nothing wrong with going in on the 3-cost Bonnie, generating card advantage, so you have more counter power, so you can also do like pitch effects like the big bomb 6-cost and stay at parity. But there's nothing wrong with just like Voltroning your Katakuri and not really doing anything else on board, like except for like maybe you're resolving a Datsu or a Nami and you continue to play off that. I think Katakuri just does enough right now.
Yeah. So do you agree with the rogue?
I think it's a fine choice, honestly. Obviously, you're a resident Yell player, so obviously, even if I felt like very passionate that it couldn't be at locals, if you come here and tell me that you're like, I think this is qualify for rogue, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, I'm gonna believe you because you have that play experience that I don't have. And I do believe that just the nature of what we're gonna tell you by this, which is this is a very diverse format. There are gonna be more decks in the top cutting and regional winning, not necessarily number of decks, but that display way different types of play styles and mechanics that honestly there's opportunity for any breakthrough as long as you're able to deck build correctly.
Yeah. Cool.
Next up for OP03 is the OP03 version of Rob Lucci, a black 5-life leader that says once per turn when an opponent's character is KO'd, you can trash 2 cards from your hand that set him as active. With Lucci, you can create multiple attacks either through combat KOs or Black's KO effects to push through the opponent's board, break through defenses, and get the last game-winning chip hits at the end. Those ability and card pools extremely powerful. Cards like 8-cost Moria and 8-cost Sabo have done decent sets to reinforce board control while setting up scary combat threats. Meanwhile, this Lucci's ability feels way less impactful when those cards are looking for a leader that will generate an engine or pair an ability more directly with them, like Reduction. Though, there could be something to say about the fact that Black is in a deficit leader position right now. Lucci is the GOAT. We'll spoil it now. Lucci from 07, no longer the GOAT. Blackbeard the GOAT. But Blackbeard's a very specific GOAT. And if you can get a GOAT that kicks that GOAT's butt, you're good. And I do think there's something to say about having a black leader that gives up the leader reduction but does all the other black shenanigans, because by giving up the leader reduction, we can like double attack the Blackbeard, which is susceptible to aggro. Like you can literally be like, I resolved this Suru forever ago. Dock Q's a 0, right? It's a 0 power princess, right? Yeah. And you're like, I'll swing this Suru to the Dock Q to reactivate my Lucci. Or like, I'll swing my Helmeppo in, right? To reactivate the Lucci to get through on this like double 9, double 10, whatever Lucci. Like I said earlier, I think this Smoker, and we'll get to it, Black Luffy, all the good, viable mono black decks. The only ones actually. I don't think there's any other ones. Yeah. No, there's one. There's one.
There's one.
We won't talk about him. So we do. All have the contention to come out on top. Oh yeah, there's that one.
Yeah.
But only one of them I think will at the end of the day. And I think it's gonna come down to what the rest of the format kind of solidifies as and the tools we do. I feel like this is the one people are looking at the least, but I feel like this leader effect, though it is the most non-black leader effect, could be the key to outing the Blackbeard matchup so that you can then progress to, okay, I'm a black deck fighting the other decks. Can I get that wallet? Whereas the other black decks already have that checkbox marked. They're more worried about how do I fix this Blackbeard matchup. I feel like this one might actually be the opposite. So I'm putting in a rogue.
That's really interesting. That is really, really cool. I didn't think about it. I think also,
you're like, I haven't thought about this leader in like 2 years.
Yeah, and that's valid, right? Because like there are players who are jumping ship from other card games coming into our card game who do not even know that this set exists, right? Yeah. They just know the staples from the set.
They probably know Katakuri exists, and that's it.
Exactly.
Nami.
Yeah. And Sabo was in the set, right? Or is that the next set? I think that's next set.
Next set.
Yeah. Okay.
Dressrosa.
But like either way.
Oh yeah, looked down and thought I was gonna be there. Wasn't even on my sheet, but also yes.
Yeah. So like there are a lot of players who are coming in who do not have that game knowledge, or at least that like in-depth card knowledge. So I think it is viable. I think that is fair. I think I want to put in rogue. So
cool.
Yeah. Moving on to OP04, Green Purple Doffy is first on the list with 4 life, end of your turn, set up to 2 of your Dawn cards as active.
I love this leader so much. It's so fun.
It's hard for me to think of building and playing as this leader, as a pilot and as a builder.
Yeah.
And the one thing I can comment on as a builder and pilot is I wish I could put Gum Gum Giant in here.
Yeah.
I wish I really could, but you can't.
I'm glad you can't.
You can't.
As someone that builds and pilots it, I'm going to quantify, I don't know, I know it's in your bullet somewhere, but I'm going to quantify that we should upfront talk about another card, which might as well be the leader's ability, because you're always going to play in conjunction with it, which is...
Birdcage?
Yes.
God. Birdcage is the one thing that outs itself against its blue self.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's a 5-cost stage. I'm going to do it from memory.
Yeah,
I don't even know. Because I know you don't have it written on here, but I think they need to know.
Yeah.
It's a 5-cost stage that says characters cost 5 or less do not unrest themselves during the refresh step, during the start of your turn. They can unrest themselves through activated abilities, triggered abilities, etc. We get around that with some Doflamingo family cards. And then it says, if at the end of your turn you have 10 Dawn, destroy every rested character cost 5 or less.
Yeah. That is, I think, the main reason you play this deck.
I got 5 minutes with you in the birdcage, brother.
This combined with like things like sugar, right? Really help lock down the opponent's board.
Diamante.
While you get to Diamante.
Can't not talk about that one.
Really help you lock down the opponent's board while you get to just chip at them with your own cards and with your own leader. I think that's really, really cool. Outside of the mid-tempo control, I don't know if it performs as well when we get past cost 5 or higher things.
What? Are we not talking about the 09 cards?
Which 09 cards?
Brother's not doing his homework.
Oh, sorry. Rosinante.
7 cost Sanji. So all the new purple stuff return 1 or more Dawn. So they will always keep Birdcage on the board. So you can play 9 cost Rush Luffy, replaces it with a card, keeps Birdcage on the board. So you don't have to blow it up, right?
Oh, I see. Yes,
7 cost Sanji, rests to 6 or less. You rest to 5 or less. It's now rested down, and you have rest swing of 7 into leader.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I just didn't think about putting the purple Luffy or the purple Straw Hat.
They're all so good.
Really
They're all so good. You can just play like a straight purple straw hat package. I'm testing it right now. I don't know which one's better. Just have an option with like Zoro if you lose to the Birdcage, maybe that's fine. Maybe that's fine. But like, no, dude, like you are, because before it was like 7 Kid, and that's the repetitive one, right? But otherwise it's like there's terms like I could play this minus card, Dawn card from my hand, but it's not that good. Now you just have like all these cards are good because 2 of them have Rush. Like you're just like, I'm chilling.
Okay, I like straight up didn't think about like.
I straight up didn't recognize your game.
Yeah,
and then also
that is wow.
Talking about like getting like Dawn parity, right? Yeah. I don't think by putting in a stack, you still probably play 5-6 Kid. And you have the ability to have like multiple 5-6 kids. So you have 2 5-6 kids. You're like instead of Dawn -1, I'll Dawn -2, you get 2 active back.
Right.
Or sorry, I'll Dawn -3 so that I don't go to 10 Dawn and I still get 2 active back, right? Because if you're at 10 and you Dawn -1, the kid puts you back to 10, but you can Dawn -2, go back to 9 and have the active Dawn.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
Dude, I'm cooking this deck. Yeah. I'm so excited to play this set and just play Doffy at one. Like, locals players better watch out. I got Doffy, I got Luffy, I got Rebecca. I am cooked out of my mind, brothers.
I think that this deck kind of folds to like cards or to leaders.
What a bum. What a bum.
You know, I don't even know if I'm qualified to say that anymore after that spiel.
No, keep going, keep going.
I just don't think that like this deck.
I didn't mean to cut you off. You know I just love this deck.
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, like, you have a lot more insight on that deck than I did in this.
Why do I not have this deck? I think it's.
I don't know. I mean, last time I was covering it. Yeah.
I remember because last time you were like, Mike, I know Vivi's relevant going to this format, but I don't know why. So you're taking Vivi, and so I traded you the Doffy because it was less relevant at the time.
Right, that makes
sense.
sense.
I feel like we should have switched it back.
Yeah, before we rated this as a meta call leader.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that. Before that might have been true, but with the aggressiveness of purple that you just listed, I think that this could actually be like at the top of stays at locals.
Yeah, I think the thing last time was we were going to the effect of like there's no law now, and so I think my judgment call was like, well, what if Zoro just crops up really hard with the animals? It's like Birdcage pretty good, like that's pretty good then, right? If that's a problem deck and it's outing other decks, obviously they didn't become the case, so it just was irrelevant.
Yeah.
I think this deck is rogue, just because we don't know. Like I've seen a few cooks in Japan like cooking with it. Doing okay at flagships, like taking a few flagship ones in the format. I think it's rogue. I think it's more powerful than the average locals deck purely on its like stun mechanics. And with a Blackbeard, it has the stun card in the deck. It has a great value engine, and it does something so mechanically unique. Not the stun card, but like everything else going on around that card that other decks don't do. That like you can't really prepare for in deck building because you're just throwing other matchups if you do. And the Birdcage can just get there.
Yeah.
the birdcage real good. I guess, it's back to me. Sorry, that was your deck. Vivi is your next leader, a 5-life red-blue leader that also cannot attack, but activate main once per turn, pay 2 Dawn to draw a card, and then up to 1 character gains Rush until the end of turn. Vivi acts best as a control deck, utilizing a number of on-play, bottom deck, and KO abilities that are tagged to large characters. They can also gain Rush using the leader's ability to remove a second character on the same turn, while consistently bolstering your hand. This is cards like Porcelino, Boa, though it doesn't remove, it does freeze something you get to attack with Rush, and so on and so forth. And now from OP09, the new Ben Beckman. While constantly bolstering your hand with 2k counters from the draw, and cheap events that, for one, generate 3,000 counter or more, converting your non-counters also with your 8 copies of 0 events. It's also backed up by Blue's increasingly impactful bottom deck cards like Red Rock and Gravity Blade, which you already know Blue Doffy is abusing in this format, and it's a uniquely powerful deck. If you play Magic the Gathering, it's one of the closest, if not the closest, depending on like what your opinion on what makes a Magic the Gathering control deck. It's the closest thing to this game to that. You're not really establishing bodies. If you are establishing bodies, they are the big cards that are going to end the game, and you're not even leveraging them like bodies, you're leveraging them as removal spells more, and you're playing a lot more like active events, active abilities to just slow the game down, inch closer and closer, keep yourself in until your opponent tires out, and they don't put up a fight at the end of the game. That being said, I think we are in a format now where there is some really good control decks. Obviously, none of these like characters do anything against Blackbeard, and when the cards are actually playing, they'll do anything. I mean, you can rush them, which is still kind of good. But when they're not actually getting their value and they're like a 30-year control deck, because unfortunately we do have to play our control deck with characters in this game, like a lot more characters than you would in like Magic the Gathering. That's a problem. And also, I think like a lot of the targeting for these just go a little bit wide. There's some really good matchups for it, for sure. But I think this suffers from the fact that the format's so diverse, you can't hone the control components together because they're not widely powerful ones. They're powerful ones in the certain situations, and you cannot build for the number of situations that you are going to see in a 10-round event with an environment this diverse. And so, because of that, it's going to stay at locals, but it's a very, very cool deck. One of those ones that I always have to shout out, and I give my flowers to, and shout out to Elias.
He's on a real deck now.
What's he playing now?
Blackbeard.
Is the sky purple? It is purple. Actually. Answer my question.
Speaking of purple. No, not speaking of purple.
Wow. Gotcha.
It's his like robe is purple.
Issho. I don't know who we're talking about.
Issho.
Oh, the inside of the robe? Brother. Brother, not even the outside of the robe. This man said, well, the Coke can is red, but the soda is brown-black.
Issho is a 4-life leader, green-black, Dawn ×1 on your turn. Give all your opponent's characters -1 cost. At the end of your turn, pay 1 Dawn to set up to one of your characters with cost 5 or less as active. We dogged on Issho a lot.
Brother, you set me up, you primed me at the beginning of this video, so you better pay this off right now.
Yeah, we dogged
Stop
Issho.
slow rolling me.
We dogged Issho a lot. However,
he got that dog in him, though. He got that dog in him.
However,
not the card, the character.
The new starter deck really breathed some really good new life into Navy.
Okay, the black one. I was like, which one?
No,
like I'm like I know you're cooking right now, but it's not obvious, so I was not following you. Did we get a starter deck and I was sleeping?
I'm gonna read off of my list. Okay.
Yeah, go for it. No, please.
Issho has a good Dawn ×1 effect, and when combined with some of the new Navy cards outside of the New Smoker starter deck, it's pretty cool. Namely, Hina, who can give Dawn for free for leader ability. New Sakazuki lets you swing out with your blockers and then see that you have rested blockers. And this is the new green Sakazuki.
Oh, the Odyssey one.
Yes.
Oh.
And then your on-play effect KOs their 5 or lesses, which is actually a 6 or less.
Side note, everyone dogged on me saying that card was, I was like, guys, this Sakazuki is really good. Like, no, it's not. I'm like, dude, green, red smoker. They're like, no, it's not. And who's right? Who's right?
I think I was actually one of those people. So and then I slapped it into an Issho deck.
Get out. I will record the rest of the video alone. Next up is Rebecca. No,
but like to finish off the thought.
No, you chill.
Access to the Thriller Bark. We have a new Persona 2K that lets us search for our green Mihawks.
Wait, sorry, we're playing Thriller Bark. Wait, what's happening?
We could play Thriller Bark in this deck as well.
Okay.
Into Navy, right?
Okay.
But the idea for us playing the new Persona Searcher in 09 is that we could search out Gecko Morias. We could search out Green Mihawk if we choose to run that.
Sure. Is there anything good to play off Green Mihawk? Can you play black cards? It can play any color, right?
It can play any color with Slash, I believe.
Yeah, so it can play Tashigi, the 3-1, not the 4.
It's also a searchable 2K is the other thing.
Can it play Hina? Is she Slash or Strike?
No, Hina's special. Hina's special.
You are my special.
Unfortunately. Yeah, Hina's a special.
PTSD.
So I don't know if we would run that. But because I do know that like in prior iterations of Issho, we were running Ryuma. So
yeah, we could run Ryuma, sure.
We could on play Mihawk Ryuma. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, I think that there are a lot of new cook potentials with Issho, especially with the new Navy cards and with the new green Sakazuki, which somehow found its deck. So yeah, I think there are cook options. I don't know. Maybe I oversold it.
Where are we putting this? Then I'll tell you if you oversold it.
Yeah, it stays at locals, but keep cooking.
I'll upgrade it from meh. Yeah, I'll upgrade from meh. Was it unplayable last time? Was it meh?
I think we were at meh. Or
I think it's gonna play Gecko more.
Yeah, but because they played Gecko more.
Yeah.
Now you can search Gecko more. Yeah.
I don't mean the dog on you, but like the image in my head was like a cook who starts making the food. And then he realizes that it's his turn to play in his online game, like his turn-based game. So he just walked away, didn't finish the meal. It's halfway done. I see the vision.
There's a vision. That's what I was basically what I was saying is that there is a vision, there is a way.
Couldn't be bothered.
Couldn't be bothered. I mean, I was busy writing up for all the other stuff. So.
Next up is Rebecca, a blue-black 5-life leader who also cannot attack. Would activate main once per turn, pay 1 Dawn when your hand has 6 or less cards in it. Check the top 2 cards of your deck for a Dressrosa type card, put 1 into your hand, and put any remaining cards into your trash. One of the large problems though is that the brand new sauce, Blackbeard, just completely invalidates a lot of the on-play abilities. There's definitely a way to build this deck differently so you're not as reliant for that matchup, but you know, use those on-play abilities to filter out and filter through your deck to get to the good stuff. Doesn't stop your Olympus, notably, which is great, and then you can use Jack or Gravity Blade to start getting value, but it does hurt a lot. Also, we talked about in the last one, the slower and bigger decks try to get, the more favored she is, because she has more time to set up the board and start doing the same kind of turn-over-turn shenanigans, but we have the problem of purple and red-purple Luffy being big and fast now, and we have the problem of still just really good late game decks, and then all the aggro decks that still exist. So, unfortunately, while I think there's ways to like out your matchups with Rebecca, and I'm a big Rebecca stan, for the deck, not the character. I'm not a weirdo like that. Jesus, I just realized what I said. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Like Vivi, it's just like there's too much variable to account for, and worst of all, like people are checking the main ones because they're so obvious. So you have to build your deck to play against Moria. You have to build your deck to play against Rebecca. You have to build your deck to play against Gravity Blade. And these decks are being played in better decks that are just not using them all, and you're claiming the famous that you can just use them all, so you have to like a lot of pushing power.
Right.
But I'm gonna say it just stays at locals. Very, very awesome deck. I'm still gonna brew a few things, but OP09, watch out! I'm coming for you. I'm prepping. I'm ready. It's time for Dressrosa to retake the throne, Luke, okay?
Yeah.
I ain't kidding about this. I ain't flipping around. I know you got your Kyross, you're like, oh, Kyross, and then you dropped him immediately, okay? After being like, I cooked the best deck. You played him at 1 locals, you did dog shit, and then you said this never existed. I'm committed to the Rebecca experience. I'm committed to making this control deck work, okay? And I swear to God, I'm gonna do it.
Actually, I actually never played Kyross.
You played him at locals.
Oh, you know what? I did because
you dogged hard.
And then you all played red, purple, law, and I was like, oh.
What else are we gonna play then, brother?
Oh, not that, because it got banned that week. Anyway, moving on. I
should have played the week it actually got banned, brother.
Yeah, Dressrosa's coming back as in the form of Usopp, so it's fine.
No, Rebecca time.
It's Usopp. Anyway, Queen. Queen is a 4-life blue-yellow leader. When attacking, if you have 4 or less cards in life and hand, draw 1 card. If you have a cost 8 or more, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life instead of drawing that 1 card. So yeah, we can either add to our hand or to our life with the effect, and it incentivizes us going down in either life cards or cards in hand. And it's ultimately a funny deck strategy that could work, but it doesn't really feel super consistent in my opinion. The new 2-cost Teach isn't leader lock though. That could actually really help us in terms of setting up our plays.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
To like if you pre-played the Teach, then play the Ace, you could potentially heal twice with this.
So tell me this is regional winning.
I
Tell me this is regional winning. Regional winning, right? I cooked it. I cracked it.
I just
Regional
think
winning.
it's like kind of inconsistent. I just think it's a little still too inconsistent. I think it stays at locals. I think you can do really, really cool things at locals.
I think you do crazy things at locals. You could cook people so hard at locals.
And you don't have to you don't have to worry about the mirror match. So that's kind of cool.
You can cook people.
You can cook people
at local. I guess like it's like the SpongeBob at night line.
At
night. Like when we record this video.
Yes. At night.
Purple Yellow Croc is a 4-life purple yellow leader with an on opponent's turn once per turn effect. It says when a Dawn card on your field is returned to your Dawn deck by an effect, add up to 1 Dawn card to the field, set it as active. Purple Croc brings a ramp strategy to purple and yellow, the purple ramp with the yellow big characters, as well as some purple ones. We now have the purple Charlotte Linlin from OP08, which is a great addition. Doing this, we're able to mitigate tempo and then get ahead on the board, get ahead with board presence, and get some really strong value out. You also incidentally get some like okay card selection with this deck, which is like notable to point out. The biggest problem here though is that Croc relies on like kind of combo piecing its way there. You have to put cards on boards and they have to stick. And in some matchups, that's fine. You had to put down the All Sunday on curve.
Yeah.
And, right, All Sunday, or is it the Wednesday? It's Wednesday. It's Vivi. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So you have to stick the Vivi. The Vivi needs to stick for 1 attack, and then that's when you start getting ahead.
Yeah.
And against some decks, they can't do anything about it, and you're fine. Against a lot of decks right now, they can interact with it, and you're not fine.
Yeah.
So the real issue is that we have a yellow-purple leader that just ramps straight up with pudding and is also not mom locked. So the top end stuff is just better because you have access to Big Mom and all the Big Mom related accessories that come with it. And so because of that, for me, it just stays at locals and it's on the lower end because like most of what you want to do, you can just do in pudding. But this one is way more fun. You actually have more decisions. So like what you like is actually like the choices to play you around, whereas like pudding is like the Unga Bunga variant of this, but the Unga Bunga is actually just that consistent and the card pool's so good that you should just do it. But if you want to actually like put yourself to more tests, which does lower the power level of the deck, this is fine. But it just kind of gets invalidated by pudding existing and being at a better level. So it's not that bad where I'm bushing down the meh, but it definitely sits to locals. And again, having to commit early board pieces, they don't just on play do the value, so your opponent can like out you from like actually getting the value is another problem point.
Yeah. Starting off, our OP05 leaders is Red Black Sabo. 4 life, Dawn times 1, opponent's turn. If your character with 5k or less power would be KO'd, you may give that character minus 1k power during this turn instead of that character being KO'd. I tried. I played 4 locals for you guys. I played 4 locals with this deck. My consistent average record was 2-2. I tried.
I know for a fact you got buys in most of those. Slash like players that are basically buys because they're brand new to the game.
And they counted towards my 2 wins.
We had the starter deck cards. Ever since this leader comes out and we started making content, which is actually said after the league came out. Ever since we started making content, y'all dog on us. Oh, Sabo's great. You don't know what you're talking about. Black's great, so Sabo must be great. And you know what? I was willing to give it to them. I was willing to be like, hey, starter deck cards on play and activate key in every turn, get that value. I'm like, whoa, this is some shit.
Wow, you're cooking.
I was like, okay, I'm here for it. What is it? There's nothing here.
There's really nothing here.
This, y'all, I'm be real. This is the Charlie Chocolate Factory experience. This is the Willy Wonka rug pull scheme experience right now, okay?
Get nothing.
There is no candy, and there is also the ugliest Oompa Loompa in the whole game, aka Sabo leader, just staring at us, being like, what do you want me to do? You guys need to touch grass. You're out of touch with reality, okay? Unplayable, correct?
Unplayable, but you want... okay.
No, don't give them anything. Don't give them anything. No.
Before they go to the comments, I'm gonna give it to them.
I don't give you anything. I want that to be clear.
I'll give it to you.
It doesn't come from me. It comes from half of the channel.
Because I spent $40 researching this. Like
an entry fee?
Yes. Researching this.
Brother, Sim is free.
Yeah. But like But
I'm just gonna take a drink and let you go off, King.
All right, here's what I got, okay? You are doing something similar to Black Yellow Linlin. Play blockers that you don't care about getting blown up, and then they can stay on the field, forcing your opponent to deal with them, or not. But what if your opponent decides not to deal with them? Then what, right? Okay, so you're playing a middling mid game until you lose out bodies one by one, trying to pressure back on your opponent, but really you struggle to gain foothold with this deck, and then Gecko Moria then just, is the only reason to play this deck, brings out those blockers that you blocked with, and then what? Like the same exact thing, right? Inconsistent, it's just really inconsistent. You have no searchers to go off of, right? We're not running any of the Belo Bettys. Why would you, okay? What are you searching? Karasu, that's it. Like Karasu? Maybe you're running in...
Maybe Dragon.
Maybe you're running... Okay, fine.
Dragon.
Dragon, sure, right?
Dragging my nuts on your face!
Yeah.
That was for the Sabo players, not you.
Good,
that was for them. I looked right at them.
God, dude. Yeah, you rely too hard on top decking with Sabos and Kuzan to draw and fix your hand into your big pieces, and if you attempt to run a searcher, GG. You whiff all of them. My last note is I ran this at 4 locals to prove a point. And then
that point was not proven. Or you did.
I proved the point. It was dog.
What was the point going in? Was the point to prove it was dog? Or was the point to prove
the point to prove was that it sucks. I'm sorry. Like, you can comment all you want. You can tell me that I'm a bad player. You can tell me I'm a bad player, but like I actually tried. Like I played 4 times 4, 16 hole rounds.
Yeah.
Like I did it.
You played a regional and a half.
I played a regional half.
And you had the easiest matchups because it reset. So it actually wasn't like playing a real regional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. Like,
speaking of Revolution Army, Belo Betty is the red-yellow 4-life leader, but activating once per turn lets you pitch a Revolutionary Army type card from your hand to give up the 3 characters with Revolutionary Army type or trigger printed on them 3,000 power for the turn. Belo works by establishing oppressive boards quickly by playing medium-sized bodies from your hand and from life triggers. Then she also has Revolutionary Army type characters that grant additional abilities when their power thresholds get 7k. These give abilities like removal, unblockable, power reduction. They kind of run the gamut. The inherent problem with Belo Betty is that your opponent gets to decide how good you are. You cannot build your board fast enough or good enough without triggering life. And anyone that's played a Belo Betty knows you just don't attack the life. You starve them until you have a 4 or 5 character board, and then you start poking in to kill them in a clean 2. Like you take 2, maybe you take 3 if you already got so many resources, you have like really good blockers or like a bunch of counter powers stacked in hand. And then otherwise you just wait and then you kill them. Like you just starve them out and then route their defenses. The only thing they can really use to get ahead is resolving the 5-drop, oh my God, Ivankov. Yeah, that's like the only one. Like Ivankov into 4-drop Ivankov into play something off that can get a little crazy. Yeah, I'll admit it, but they still have to pitch a card to use the second Ivankov and then not get an attack with it that turn. Yeah. So overall, it's just like you never want to hand your opponent so much decision making over what you're doing. And this deck is literally that by design. And even worse so, the support in this set only activates from life when you're combined 5, meaning the first 2 life you take, if it's one of these, it's dead. So you will not establish anything, which doesn't make sense. And then they said apparently on the stream today, unless I misheard it, but I'm pretty sure I heard it correctly, that they decided to go with Robin because she joined the Revolutionary Army.
No, wait.
So Mike, they're not even for this leader. So they got 0 support.
Now, Mike, what stream was this again?
This was the Bandai official English content they're making now.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, the producer said it. He's really cool. I do like listening to him talk. I just think it's insane that we've been begging for a crumb of Revolutionary Army support for the actual Revolutionary Army leaders. Yeah. And they're like, yellow Rev coming, and we're like, red, yellow Sabo, maybe Betty. And then then it's not good, and then he literally says out of his mouth directly, yeah, I built these for Robin. And I'm also like, okay, but respectfully, King for sure. What was the intent here? Because I don't understand how that works. Yeah, so this leader is like, it used to be meh. I'm actually putting it unplayable now because the power level has gotten so good. The interaction in so many colors is so good that I just feel like there's no deck that can't start around. There's before there's some decks where it's like, I don't have enough defense or interaction to like force things rested or KO things that they're building active before they alpha strike me, right? Every deck has it now. There is no reason you shouldn't be able to out a Betty that's prepping the 1 attack line they have you should just never lose to this deck unless you brick. Like if you brick, you literally can't do anything, not because of your deck composition, but because of like your draw sequencing or whatever. Like that's whatever. But like in a normal 8 out of 10 times, 7 out of 10 times even, you should have the ability to win that matchup.
We got Rosinante. Rosinante is a 4-life green-blue blocker leader. End of your turn. If you have 6 or less cards in your hand, set this leader as active. Yeah, blocking with your face is just not a viable strategy.
I'll attack your leader. I'll block.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. And then like the second half of the ability, or where you get to restand, it only happens if you have 6 cards in your hand, right? So you're kind of like pigeonholed into having less counters in hand than you normally would.
To leverage the leader as a blocker to defend things.
Yeah.
Real quick, I was thinking the other day how they could have fixed this. You needed a card that you were incentivized to play that's like your rested cards gain like 1,000 power or something like that. So that it's like if they attack something else, like if they attack like a 5 or attack like a small thing, it's like I'll block for 6, and now it's a 6. Or I don't know, maybe not rested because then it just attacks and it gets it or whatever. I just feel like they need to do something that like when you declare like blockers, when you declare blocker gets plus 1,000 and plus 2,000 basically.
Yeah.
Something that results in like when you block for that block, you get a power boost at no cost.
Yeah.
So that the first time it's free, obviously you can't block your own attack. So it's like they attack the leader and they out it. But at least it like made sense, and like I just don't know what they were thinking.
It's just really, really hard because
aside from protect the searcher, that's the only thing I know. Yeah.
Basically, like that's basically what you're doing. I mean, like the argument could be that you're blocking with your face and you don't really care about countering because you're going to take the life, right?
Yeah.
And then
but you're a 4-life leader, so you can't even do that as like aggressively.
That's the other part that sucks, is that like you're restricted as a 4-life leader. You're restricted to your cards in your hand.
Yeah.
And also you're restricted to your card pool. So
again, just like green, blue, black, red.
Yeah.
Cursed color combination.
Yeah. You have to play in a very particular way that favors your opponent. Calling your bluff. So i.e. if like they swing to poke at your face and you're like, you have one of two options. You're like, yeah, I can choose to counter out of this right now and make my consequent, like my next block with my leader less effective, or I can just like counter, or I could just take it to face right now, and then they'll be like, okay, cool, and then I end my attack sequence. Right?
I don't like hearing about this leader. It's just so frustrating.
It's hard. It's
dumb. What are you asking me to do? It's like, I'm sorry, like you hand me a deck, right? I'm blind. Like pretend like I never like play this leader, right? And like you're like, oh, here's a deck, play this, okay? It's like, oh, you're gonna co-pilot me? Okay, cool. Like, cool. So now you're gonna do this, and I'm gonna be like, what? I'm gonna do what? I'm gonna block on my leader. Okay, and then I take damage. They weren't attacking me. What do you mean? Why would I do like? It's like the thing is, it's just, and there isn't like a big gotcha moment where like, wow, you know what? I understand it.
You got
no,
me,
there is. Where you're like, oh my god, that was crazy. It's like, no, I'm just in the hole, brother.
Yeah. You know what I do believe that this leader was designed for, actually?
Tell me.
It was for buddy battle. Like, buddy battle was at the peak. Yeah.
Oh, that's peak.
Yeah.
That's peak, brother.
They designed this for buddy battle back when buddy battle was a thing, and then they stopped supporting buddy battle, so who cares anymore? So now we just have a dog leader that we always have to talk about every single time we make one of these meta lists. So it's unplayable. Cool. It's unplayable. I'm sorry.
That's why I'm surprised you were just talking about it for so long at this point.
Yeah, I know.
Purple Luffy is a 5-life leader with activate main once per turn. You can take the top card from your life and put it to your hand. And then if you control exactly 0 Dawn or more than 2 Dawn, gain an active Dawn from your Dawn deck. Notably, it's up to. So, for example, really linchpin cases that do come up. If you're at 10 Dawn, you just need to find a specific card. You can just activate leader effect. Just grab your life and just be like, is the card here that I need? Because I really need this specific card right now. That's something you totally do. With this, Luffy can skip the middling 3 and 4 drop turns and get right into the good sauce, ramping early. And of course, this comes at really no cost. It can come at a cost if your opponent like is a super aggro, like low through the ground deck. But basically, because you're adding the card to your hand, by taking that life, you're just gonna have a counter in hand with increasing your hand size. I'm messing up words tonight. Hand size that's increased, where you're like, okay, cool. I should have 5 cards. I have 6 cards now. This one would hit. I'm going to counter instead, and now we're at the same point, basically, with the trade-off of that. Instead of having an extra card in hand and getting to activate trigger, potentially, I now have resource advantage, and I now have tempo advantage in this. Which is really, really good. Especially when you get a whole starter deck that supports this, which is really, really good. And then you get a whole color in a set that supports this, which is really, really good. We said it a lot tonight. 9-cost Secret Luffy, 7-cost Sanji. We have the 3-cost Zoro, this is great. We have the 4-cost Zoro, that is great.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just, I can't, we have Law Searcher. We have a Searcher in purple now.
Yeah.
Like, holy moly, brother.
Yep.
Yeah, this is really crazy. And then your top end, 9-cost Luffy, obviously is great. 10-cost Luffy can be the kill shot. Kaido can be the kill shot. Linlin can be the tempo maker. It's dealer's choice. Build it how you want. There's no, usually in a meta, there ends up being a wrong answer because you're playing the certain decks and playing certain outs. This format, I think, even at the end, it's going to be so diverse that even if you make the lesser choice, it's still not the wrong choice because your argument is you're playing expecting more of this deck or shoring up more of this matchup and just trading off the win percentage points. This is a regional winning deck. This is one of the most powerful decks in the format. It is one of the only decks that even when it's getting shut out by Blackbeard's effects, that it can go over Blackbeard because it builds such big bodies that are hard to remove. It gets good card selection from the leader ability. And also like in the late game with the Blackbeards, like they can stop things from attacking and they can turn off the leader ability, but you don't really need the leader, you're not using the leader ability, and they're not like getting rid of any passive crazy effect. So they're really just creating freeze effects, and they're not really just like actually like shutting off game plans.
No full value.
So regional winning deck, learn how to play this deck. If you held on to your PSA copies of this leader, congratulations. I am really excited to play this deck. I'm really excited.
It's a really, really good deck.
I'm probably playing Doffy mostly, but like I am gonna sleeve this up. Play it for at least like a couple events. I think the playlines are just really fun.
I was collecting A's specifically for this deck, so next is the new eroded Sakazuki. 4-life black blue, activate main once per turn, discard a card with Navy. Give up to one of your ops.
Forgot about that point, didn't you?
Give up to one of your opponents -1 cost for the turn. My first bullet point here is LOL.
Lamau.
And Navy plus color, the Navy plus the color trading is still strong, and
it's actually Lamau, but actually kind of cooks.
But it's still kind of like funny. And you could just play Lucci or Gecko in all honesty still. Probably not Gecko anymore, so that's an old note, but like, you can still probably play Lucci and like have
I'm not familiar with your current game, so I am familiar with the game, just not the latest DLC.
People are still coping on this with the new edition of Navy. I still believe, even with the new edition of the Hina cards, I don't know what you want me to say about this leader.
You're pitching a whole card to reduce it. At least when you play Suru, there comes a point in the game where you suit the Suru up and you rumble. Now you don't even get to rumble and you're reducing for less. It's just so bad.
Just wait for Usopp, okay, guys? Just wait for Usopp.
Usopp will save you.
Yeah, like that's basically where you want to go.
Don't worry about
it. We're unplayable in Matt. Unplayable.
I actually am ready to downgrade it to unplayable at this point. Just because like now it's like I got power creep. It's just like before it's like I see why I want to do this at locals. Now I see no reason why I do this at locals.
It's a waste of your time. I'm trying to save you time. There are top players I know who are cooking this deck right now, and I'm like, and they're like, oh dude, it's just a fun deck.
You want to out them?
I'm not gonna out them. You're watching this video. I know who you are.
Are they?
You're watching this video.
Dean?
No, not him. No, Dean doesn't watch our videos. And rounding out 05, we have NL. On opponent's turn, the first time this leader sees your life, hit 0, gain 1 life, then trash a card in hand. So NL gets kind of dumpstered by most of the top decks in this meta format, I think. One Nami, Blackbeard, Shanks, Black Yellow
Just
Luffy.
one Nami?
One Nami.
One Nami's all it takes.
One Nami. One comma Nami. And then 60-40 into Lucci still. 70-30 if the Lucci player is good, right? But what you do have good matchups into is all of the mid-range tempo decks like Doflamingo.
Stop.
And Zoro.
Doffy players, I'll tell you how to win right now. Okay, ready? Here you go. Real short hand. You get to the number 2, right? And then you start having, you have to make sure you have access to Jinbei and 4-cost Law. Mainly 4-cost Law, Jinbei helps. You then start your turns where you attack for like 7 with a character, leaving your leader and everything else back. They then counter or they don't counter. If they take the life, you can start to press the aggression. You have enough characters on board. You should know this or not. If not, when they usually counter out, then you go, or they take the life, they're at 1, they filter, and you feel like you don't have enough characters. You then play Law, resetting the rest of the character back to hand, replaying, and then also returning the Law. So you return Law, return the other one for cost, return Law, or whatever you want to do it. Then you replay the character active. You keep doing this until you eat enough cards out of their hand where you can turn them all sideways and get there. You just have to do that turn, overturn, do not leave the Law on the board, return it as part of the cost. Unless you have another one, you're like, I don't have full board, I have another Law in hand. But use the Law, do just a quick little dance, just keep doing back and forth while you eat their hand, and then you get there. If they see more than 2 Yamatos, it's hard. If they see all 4 Yamatos, you'll still lose.
Or you could just putting them.
The good ones don't let you.
That's fair. Yeah.
At least at the point where it matters.
Yeah.
At least at the point where it
That's
matters.
what I was gonna say. Is that if you were to play around Doflamingo, you have to play around the pudding. So you are countering out early. Your hand size is around 5 to 6.
We're not chewing through a 7-card hand. We're chewing through a 5-card hand that has like 2 life or has like trigger and they've already filtered and yada yada.
So yeah, if you know how to play against the NL and you're the Doflamingo player, then you know how to do it.
Now you do.
Yeah. And the one danger about that I would want to say is that when they play their 9-cost removal Yamatos, that they won't get full value, but they will start like just popping your things on board. So
how's the purple Luffy matchup? I feel like it's an interesting line.
I think that purple Luffy is really hard. Just because of I think it's really hard for control decks in general. Just because of how tall it is and how tall it is in both cost and power. So it is just tall both ways. The best way that you can gain control over, the best way you can judo flip like purple Luffy out is when they start turning sideways. You have to wait for them to turn sideways first, which is kind of disadvantageous to be honest. Because if they are wise to that, and they go Luffy Taro Sanji pass, and then they leave it right, and they go Luffy Taro Sanji pass.
Maybe have with the Sanji just draw a card, right?
Exactly.
Like, just poke you a bit.
Yeah. And they have like if they resolve that turn with like 3 to 4 on board, I think it's GG.
Oh, sorry, Sanji, not Sangoro.
Sangoro. Yeah. Well, I meant Sangoro.
Yeah,
so,
Oh, you meant Sangoro.
I meant Sangoro.
Great, fixed it. All good.
So, like, I think that the good purple Luffy player will know when to press the go button, and I think against a control deck, that's like what you have to do. Right?
So where are we putting this guy?
Despite all that, I do think that there will be like a lot of people who play Doflamingo and think that the deck autopilots itself and then just settles it on that. So I do think that this might be a rogue deck. I could see it peeking out and top cutting, maybe 1 or 2 of them. So I think rogue is safe. I think rogue is a safe deck.
Seems good.
Yeah.
Next up, we are exiting OP05 and moving over to OP06 with red, purple, Uta. Red purple Uta is a 4-life leader with a when attacking ability. You may trash a film card from your hand to give an opponent's character minus 2,000 power for the turn and gain Arrested Dawn. With Uta, we're looking to play into both red's power-based interaction and purple's ramping to large bodies to generate card advantage through minus Dawn abilities while removing cards on board with leader by making them smaller. With our core film package utilizing the leader, with a leader needing a core film package to be utilizing its effect, the engine is firmly put in there. But within film itself, we also have a win condition in the 10 drop Shanks from OP06. Unfortunately, the 10 drop Shanks from OP09 is not in the movies. He's canon. So unfortunately, we're stuck with that one. I mean, we can play the other 10 Shanks, but...
I mean, we could still run Searcher Uta in this one. We
yeah.
Can still,
So what I was gonna get to is like, the Searcher Uta lets you kind of like switch out the old red package now, where you can play purple film, red-haired without the stuff that requires the red-haired leader. And you're gonna have like a pretty smooth deck compared to what you had before in terms of like the tandem value. And then you could just bomb drop like top end, that stuff. 7 meter is still plenty good in this deck with the leader reduction. When it comes down to it, pitching the ramp is just not worth it. It's almost as bad as pitching the -1 on. But this is way better because you at least get some combat reduction, interaction, or setting up for KO effects. And the more important problem is that like the film archetype is just so underfed. Granted, we did almost a year ago now get 06, gave us plenty, and we've had like a handful of ones since. But even those like were not super great. They weren't even like half of them, at least if I remember correctly, like the plant ones, what I think about, and like the ones that go around the plant one, like they're not really designed with the leader. They're designed to be like, and this is so cool. They're designed to be like flavorful for the movie movies, and the character, but they didn't actually build towards the leader at the same time. So that's a problem. And so because of that, I keep it at stays at locals. I think it's actually better than men now because of the Shanks. Because of getting to run the Uta Searcher for red hair and make it, and we have a cohesive full deck now instead of purple good cards, a few good red film cards, and then like random red stuff and random top end purple. We now have like a cohesive unit package that will play off each other better. And so because of that, I think you're like less frustrated and it's less like intensive to try to play this at locals and have a good time. Next up is Perona, a green-black leader for life when activating once per turn. You may choose one. Either reduce the cost of one character by 1, or rest the character costs 4 or less your opponent controls. With Perona, you're leveraging a leader that powers the engine of both its colors perfectly. Green cares about characters being rested and interacting with the rest of characters through KO abilities, and black cares about cost reduction to get KO abilities online. Put it together, and what do you have? The best of both worlds. Perona plays like a traditional Magic the Gathering mid-range deck. You're combining cards such as Ryuma with the ability to keep putting aggression on the board while removing threats. You can even draw power after recruiting cards to your hand with your searchers using You Can Be My Samurai to reduce the overall card count in your deck, keeping access to multiple cards in hand high, keeping access to cards that only matter high by reducing the number of cards in your deck. With Perona's ability to build in a lot of different ways as a mid-range deck, with slight tweaks here and there, it's able to fill a lot of cracks, fill a lot of matchups, fix parts that are like shored up against some, or shore up, sorry, fix parts, just shore up some matchups. And you know, you gotta take percentage points somewhere at all times. But I think there is a way that you build this deck to get through. I think also another really good point is that it has a great Doflamingo back. You can decimate a Doflamingo player, which is going to be a big part of this format. And with Lucci being pushed out, it's actually a lot more favorable. Lucci was a really hard matchup because you weren't getting value and you were getting valued on, and their Gecko Morias were just better than yours. And with Lucci getting edged out of the format, which you still haven't got to, but it's going to be getting edged out of the format, the type of removal-heavy board-present decks are going to be lesser. And Perona isn't doing the exact same thing, but it turns out how the follow-up combat works feels pretty similar to leveraging 4/6 Luccis. And so I think there's definitely an opportunity there for it to get ahead. I think it has to figure out how it does its games against the Blackbeard deck. I don't personally know how really that fares as it stands. I don't know if there's a way to like really make that work because there's a lot of on-play reliance there. But if it can figure that part out, I think there is a healthy future for this deck. That being said, I'm going to put it stays at locals. I do think that Blackbeard shutouts are a little too hard, and I think the Purple Luffy matchup as another regional winning deck is really, really hard. But again, great Doffy matchup. But I don't think the regional winning decks just run the place. I think they play multiple levels of triangle format, and they just have the better win conditions against everything under them for the most part. And then you also have to beat everything under them, which I'm sure there's going to be problems there as well.
Yeah. Hody Jones is a 5-life green leader. Activate main, you may rest this leader, rest up to one of your opponent's Dawn cards or characters with a cost of 3 or less. Then you cannot add life cards to your hand using your own effects during this turn. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this one, Mike. There are no new Fishman cards.
Wait, are we not in European regionals, brother? This is the most important deck.
Oh my god.
You're only gonna play against like 7 Bonnies.
You're right.
Well, I think it was, okay, to be fair, I think it was like 5 Bonnies.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this deck did really, really well one time. There are no new Fishman cards. There's just no new Fishman cards. Your new green cards do not help your strategy.
Yeah.
I think it's unplayable.
Okay.
I'm done.
Cool. Green Yellow Yamato is a 4-life green yellow leader with double attack. And activate main if your opponent's life is 3 or less, you can attach 2 Dawn to any of your characters. Yamato is a glass cannon leader, looks to deal massive damage on its own in the early game before putting down late game bombs like Hody Jones to push through final hits, or Doflamingos to lock up the board before smashing in with a giant character. It also leverages support cards like Nami to add Banish to its double attack, and Hiyori to organize its triggers on life so you can flip extra characters into play to keep up the aggression. Plus, it allows access to OP09's Rubbin, which gives it more ways to eat at life while denying your opponent value. Yamato is, though, a glass cannon, and like any glass cannon, it can shatter, and this is a very diverse format. So Yamato wants to have a narrow hole, and basically, like, you have like the slow closing wall, and it wants to shoot right through that wall straight as fast as possible, because it's fast as hell, boys. But this wall ain't straight, this room ain't straight. It's got turns and twists everywhere, because it's a very diverse format, and unfortunately, it doesn't matter how fast you are, because you have to decelerate to make a turn, to make a 90-degree turn. So unfortunately, I think that Yamato is stays at locals deck because it just will not be able to be built to cohesively beat enough things in the format to get through a 10-round event. If you come here and tell me, I have it really noted here, like the other one said verbally off the top of my head when we're discussing, but this one I literally have noted, like if you come and tell me, hey, Yamato is top 64, he had a crazy run with a crazy build and saw the right stuff, I believe it can happen because it's just that aggressive. But inherently, the methodology of why this deck is good and how diverse this format is going to be mechanically are kind of really at odds with each other.
Reiju is a purple-blue leader with your turn once per turn. When a Dawn card on your field is returned to your Dawn deck, draw 1 card.
That's pretty fun.
Pretty good. It is the new RP Law substitute. We said that a while ago. We said that in 08. It, I think, still holds that title outside of Doflamingo. Again, because you're kind of doing the same thing. You're cheating out things. You're playing...
I want to point out, I talked about how this deck is really good in Doflamingo. No one believed me. This deck is still really good in the Doflamingo.
It's really, really good in the Doflamingo because the crackback insane.
The crackback be crazy.
Yep.
So the fact that matchup's just eat. Like, Doffy can win it, but I feel like it's not favored. I feel like their tempo is just slightly better. You have to really get ahead of them. You have to force them to cycle for a full turn.
Yeah.
In addition, you are then doing Doffy things to other decks that lose to Doffy.
Yeah.
So then you have like the things that Doffy wins against for the most part, with the exception of where life matters or where certain effect matter. Like Blackbeard's like the only not one, obviously, because the on-plays get turned off and you're not playing free from the top of your deck. Everything else, it's like almost 1-for-1 wins. Yeah, this deck is heating up, buddy.
Yeah. Do you think that with the inclusion of Black Maria that it actually is stabilizing in terms of...
I don't think Black Maria is actually that important.
Is that
like,
really?
Theo's gone down on it after like playing games with me.
Yeah. 7 cost
I think you included 7 cost Sanji. Which one's that one?
The new one from 09.
I haven't tested with it yet, but that's the point I'm getting to. Like, you now have these tools as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to point it out as like a Doffy player. It's a deck I'm very incredibly aware of.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a note because we had a long discussion of it last time. I just kind of want to follow up around it. Like, man, I thought I was overselling it. I was underselling it.
Cool. I think that is Rogue.
Yeah, I'm there for it for sure. It has sequencing problems sometimes.
Yeah.
For life.
That's the thing. You kind of need to...
Folds the Blackbeard.
You need to find the nuts. The thing. Yeah. So... Yeah, Fault's the Blackbeard. Your on plays aren't as impactful when they come on. You can't -3 with the EGG, so that's kind of bad.
And again, talking about triangles, right? Eats Doffy. Doffy eats Blackbeard. Blackbeard eats Reiju.
Yeah.
Like triangle.
Yeah.
Moria is your mono black 5-life leader with Dawn 1 when attacking, lets you pay 2 Dawn, trash a card from hand. Then he trashes 3 cards on top of his deck, lets you play a 4 cost or lower Thriller Bark type character from your trash. Moria has all access to typical black removal with 2 big advantages that other black cards do not have. Card selection and cushioning the blow of other decks' removal through recurring cards from the yard. Whenever you KO anything, it can easily be returned by the leader effect or 8-drop Moria. And guess what? It can essentially search the 8-drop Moria by sending it to yard, recurring it with Hogback, and then playing it. It can play, if you really slow down the game enough, it could play more than 4 Morias, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, your entire trash adds a second hand. 8 cost Morias, Rebecca's, you could even play Moncherie if you want.
Yeah.
All access, all great, all the time.
Yeah, and every single 2K that you throw out is still a 2K that it can come back. So.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what makes that deck really, really, really easy to defend with.
Hogback loops Moria, really Moria loops Hogback.
Yep.
Continue.
And it's really, really, I think it's really good.
Yeah. So while it does rely heavily on on-play abilities, the fact that Moria is a leader that centers around like Doffy attacking to activate while populating board, not on top of the deck though, does cost cards in hand, so you don't have the same resource competitiveness that Doffy has, which is what really pushes Doffy over the edge of the Blackbeard match, in my opinion. I think that's enough where you could build this deck still specifically to beat Blackbeard and then still have all the black deck shenanigans. So, like every other mono black leader, except for one we haven't gotten to, this is what I have in Rogue. One of these will make it to the top. The rest will fall to the wayside of locals. Keep an eye on Moria.
Yeah, are you putting this at Stays of Locals, or are you putting this?
No, Rogue.
You're putting it at Rogue.
Every black leader I have that isn't the one that we know we're all talking about is Rogue, because like I said, I think one of these will stay at Rogue or Ascend, and the other ones will fall to the wayside. Because it'll be the one that can beat Blackbeard consistently enough, and then in every other matchup still be acting as close to an 07 Lucci as possible by doing oppressive black things.
Yeah. So I think that this might not be Rogue. I think it stays at Locals at the very top end. And I think that Blackbeard just really shuts down this deck too hard. I really think that like it is just too like the consistency that you're trying to find, you can definitely achieve in every other matchup but not against Blackbeard at all, I think.
Okay.
Because the on-play is just turned off. Like the minute you go to your 4 Dawn turn, they're not gonna let you resolve Hogbacks. If they're smart, they're not gonna let it happen, right? And then then they'll just wait out, and then your 2 costs that you are poised to counter with, right? You either run like 10 to like 12 of those, or you're like me, you run 14. But like if you're running 10 and 12, those are gone forever.
Yeah,
So-
I just think that you just have to, it's just a rebuild. We're redesigning the deck. We have to design around the activate mains.
Right.
We have to take advantage of Jack. We have to take advantage of Kyote. Kaido,
Yeah.
yes. Monstery wasn't a joke. I think having Monstery to activate to recur value is great to get around those abilities. I don't think it's a straight 1-for-1. I will say I think this is the lowest one out of all the black decks. But again, the one thing that keeps this up for me is the same thing that keeps the Lucci in for me, which is that it's an aggressive base leader ability. The leader ability doesn't leave, and you get to populate your board while pressuring that leader ability. So all in all for me, it still tracks enough where I think you can make a build out of it. The question is, and this is the real question with all of them, how much will you have to sacrifice to get the Blackbeard win?
Right.
Are you still the oppressive black deck on the other end of that? If you're not, go home, we're done here. But if we can strike the balance, we're cooking.
Right. Cool. So Rogue, we are going to start 7 by entering the dragon with...
Thank you for getting the very in-your-face pun.
Yeah. Needed to make sure that I did it right. 5 life, red leader, activate main, give up to 2 total of your currently given Dawn cards to one of your characters. So a lot of the pros like to argue that this is actually a really, really good ability, that it just hasn't had its time to shine. And I do believe that's true.
I think it's mechanically
I think it's
very powerful.
Mechanically
you can see
good
it. The
ability.
best way to see how powerful it is how good it is. Obviously, contextual matters, which is why it's not really good. But like, it's technically really good in limited, where it's like you're combat focused and you're incentivized already to be just like raw attaching Dawn and doing a lot of raw attached Dawn in combat, where you can put it on yourself, move it around, and just bake the opponent's board really hard. I think that's like a good like litmus test of like showing you like how the mechanics baked into it is inherently good. It's just not contextually good.
Yes. So, and that's important because a lot of our red cards, like if we are waiting to attach Dawn when attacking, it's too slow. Even the new Yasop in this 09, it oftentimes feels too slow. ×1 Dawn when attacking, -1000, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a bonus. It's like, hey, if I get to use this, that's pretty sweet.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the way that current red cards feel like. It's kind of like, oh boy, I sure hope I live for this.
Oh
like,
boy, here I go killing again, but he gets shot through the head like as he finishes his sentence, you know?
Like, it's like, what? It's like that Pop Team Epic kit where it's like, oh, your life ends 2 hours from now. like it's just, it's not good in that regard. And then like the Revo cards that you are trying to use it with aren't that great.
Still bad.
Yeah, still bad.
Or not bad, just they're not being, he can't utilize them right, and they can't help him do anything.
And I think one of the best utilizations of this effect is in the 5-cost Luffy unblockable, in which you could turn your Luffy unblockable, right? That's cool. But outside of that, there's not a lot of mechanical uses for that ability.
The best is like you have something, you tab out for the dragon character, you move it on to character 1 or leader, and then you pass it back. Like, or you move it on like, or even, you can just move it on the leader and then move it off leader on the characters. You can just like play the dragon, put it on dragon, attack with dragon, switch it back to the character.
Yeah, you
dragon
can
attack.
swing 9 to
like
9-11.
That is
right?
the best. Yo, you can't, it's cursed, brother.
You can
Can't
swing
do
11
that.
to 9.
There we go.
Sure,
Thank
bad
you.
sequencing, whatever.
Bad
but like,
sequencing to break the curse.
But yeah, either way, I just, and also your new Revo army cards are not red.
No support for you.
Yeah, no support. It's struggling to find a hold in terms of deck building and what Dawn-equipped red characters want to do. I think that, all that being said, I think it is stayed as a locals.
Yeah, I think the
it's
red
still
packages,
works.
especially with the generic Shanks cards, are still just that good.
Yep.
Big cook in there.
Yeah.
Bonnie is your mono green 5-life leader with once per turn on an opponent's attack. You can pay 1 Dawn and rest an opponent's character or leader. Bonnie's ability converts 1 Dawn into card advantage. Literally paying 1 Dawn results in at worst a 1-card 1k counter when resting a 5k power character that would swing on leader, but can convert even higher when you take it to the fact that you're going to be resting for offensive or tempo-based abilities, resting blockers to get attacks through, or resting other attackers that are worth much more counter. This ability also allows her to extend to the late game, leaning in the green haymakers like 9-cost Zoro, 10-cost Doffy, 8-cost Kid, and Hody Jones to overrun your opponents. And with her Supernova trading, she backs her early game with a suite of mid-range characters to generate tempo or wall up on board, as well as just carrot generically good in this deck, now Supernova, but shout out. Bonnie's ability to just lend itself to defensive value, but offensive tempo, forcing everything you need to remove or set up into the perfect position. And so here's what my thing is, right? Yes, bad pairings into something's at the top, but its worst pairing is Lucci, and that shit gone. Like straight up, that's gone. I've won all but one of my Bonnies as Doffy, but I've seen a lot of Doffys lose it. I have seen purple Luffys get outvalued because they have to take that life, and the bodies get aggressive with the Cavendish activations, with the body being able to freeze or freeze Dawn. You're like, I'll ramp a life, and they're like, I'll freeze a Dawn, and now you can't actually tab out for the thing you're ramping for, and so the ramp is actually a negative for you right now because you took a life.
Yeah.
And you took it too early, more so.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think this is just like top cutting, like straight up. I think the records from Japan shows that it's competitive enough. I think also there's a lot more willingness to play Bonnie in America from like just in-person events I've been to and seeing online breakdowns of ones we do have. Yeah. And I think also the biggest thing is that the top end plays well against basically everything. It's the middle game cards you have the deck select for what you think you're gonna play in this diverse format. And it's pretty easy to like balance out enough cards for every matchup with the amount of card selection you get in this deck and with the amount of interaction that you get to do, especially when you're backing it with cards like Cavendish, which absurdly abuse your resources. With Cavendish being able to let you play like 2 mid-sized things or play a big thing untapped to do more interaction, whether it's like body leader up or putting Dawn on things or paying for new cards, you can easily make up for the fact that like, I have 2 cards that are not so good right now, but because I can utilize them both right now, it's like I'm utilizing 1 good card against this matchup. So yeah, I think it's top cutting, straight up.
Top cutting is good.
Yeah, at worst it's Rogue, and I think Rogue would have to be a failure on people to really take the time to pilot it. Blackbeard's obviously interesting. If you can resolve the Zoro though, you'll just cook him. Yeah. But obviously, like it's a weird thing where it's like, they now have to build for Shanks because Shanks is a known quantity, and when they have to deal for the Shanks deck, it means they can reach up the 9 and kill it pretty easily. But again, I think it's in there. Yeah. Did you have anything you want to talk about this? I know earlier when I kind of brought it up, you seemed to really have thought about this in a way.
No, yeah. I'm thinking about it in the way of Shanks because Bonnie is the one control deck that does really, really well against other control decks. Yeah. And that's the matchup that I'm thinking about. And what I'm specifically thinking about is I'm okay if you end up Doflamingoing all my Shankses because my passive still is a thing. Right?
Yeah, totally. I think that matchup is pretty rough. Yeah. Not gonna lie. I think it's still rough. But I think you're also you're not playing the kid version, which helps. Like I think you just move away from that. Yes, 100%. Personally, I mention it because it's like a tool piece that pairs well with Bonnie. I
think it's time to let it go though for a little bit because there's just too many things.
Not yet, but Lim's gonna have the time. We're coming up on it, buddy.
I see.
Yeah, brother.
My God.
What we got next from you, Luke?
Yeah, so we have Boa up next. Boa is a blue 5-life leader with your turn once per turn. This effect can be activated when a character is removed from the field by your effects. If you have 5 or less cards in your hand, draw 1 card. Boa is kind of a worse Doflamingo, but like...
Yeah, she is. Except for where it counts. Her personality.
I was gonna say hair?
Literally, he's such an ass.
He's such an ass and she has such a...
Brother, we're done. You took the words right out of my eyes.
We're done. I respect women.
Eyes respect women.
Oh my goodness. Cut this out. Please bleep me. Anyway.
Hey, Gavin, we should have still collab though.
Oh my God. Yeah, so I think this is a worse Doflamingo, but a more defensive Doflamingo. Sure. You are kind of doing the same exact thing as Doflamingo. If you're a warlord, you're running the same package, you're trying to go down, you're incentivized to go down cards in hand by using them defensively. And you have 6 cost Boa, although I feel like that's kind of too slow to play now, and freezing that is fine. Freezing your opponent's characters is fine.
I feel like you're right now really just trying to justify your early purchases more than you're being on. I will say though, I think you make a good point. It's like Doffy is a deck I look at as being an aggro tempo deck. It can play aggro or it can play mid range through tempo, but it is not control. It can do control plays in the game, but it is not a control deck. Boa is the opposite of this spectrum. It is a control tempo deck where it starts slow and it can speed up to tempo in aggression instead of tempoing in control, but it doesn't cross to the full left or right, and neither does Doffy. Like Doffy doesn't cross all the way from the left to the right, and Boa doesn't cross all the way from the right to the left.
Yeah, and because of that, it doesn't excel in anything, which makes it kind of hard, especially because
there's so many good control decks. Right now. That's more the issue, or it's like that problem is a problem because Doffy's the same way, but Doffy is one of the best aggro decks is the thing.
a lot of these leaders suffer from somebody does it better, right? Or somebody does it better, or they're just more specialized into doing exactly that thing that you want to do. So they're just gonna be worse at it, and that's fine. And because of that, Boa stays at locals, and I will be sad about it, and that's okay.
That's fine. Let me cheer you up with some Davy Bat games. Foxy is a 5-life purple leader with an on-attack ability to let you Dawn -3. If you control 3 or more Foxy Pirate-type characters, select the 1 leader and 1 character your opponent controls. Those cards will not become active in your opponent's next refresh phase. Utilizing early ramp, we're going to get to late-game purple cards really fast, and we're going to populate board. And with Lucci moving to the wayside, we are now going to be able to easily keep that board to activate Foxy's effect. Before 4-cost Lucci was a problem, now not so much with 07 Lucci kind of falling to the wayside. This means that before, where our board would get broken and it'd be really hard to establish and keep counterpower in hand, we're gonna keep counterpower in hand and keep an established board way easier, which means more times to activate resting. We have a 7-cost Foxy that also gets back a Dawn and minuses our opponent's characters by 1,000 as a passive. On your turn, on opponent's turn, it's on one of the turns. Hold on, is it still here? Do not believe I have it. I believe it's on the opponent's turn. I believe that is because it's when you try to attack them, it slows you down. That's the flavor of it.
Yes.
So I believe it's on the opponent's turn.
Yeah.
And the new top end cards from this are crazy in it. The Sanji, the Luffy, all great. You can play Nami, great. Usohachi, great. So now instead of filling it with like random generic non-synergistic purple cards, they were still good. They play Kaido and stuff was still good, right? Now you can play another thematic package in here. And it sort of curves together. You already wanted to play the 6-drop Sanji that becomes a 3-drop from OP07. Now it's just easier to do that if you still want to do it and have some continuity or synergy. I guess it's continuity as well. Yeah, this deck real good. I actually think this deck is rogue, straight up. I've seen the data. The data is real good from Japan. And I think Japan also underplayed this deck. I think America was more willing to crack this deck, as you can see from results when the deck came out. Same way to Australia, like all the English, not NA specifically, but English speaking territories. English version of the game. And I know a lot of players have been waiting for this set. They have been simming 09 in advance for a while. And I'm really excited to see what all the cooking comes up to.
Yeah. I've definitely played a Foxy in top 6 table, so. Yeah. Or in the regional. Next, we have Black Lucci OP07.
We've been talking about him enough.
We've been talking about him a lot.
Actually, we've been what's it? Subtweeting him. We've been subtweeting him.
Yeah, vague tweeting him the whole time.
Time to get serious.
It's time to actually time to add his DMs.
DM him directly.
DM directly.
Black.
Lucci is a black leader, 5 life, with when attacking, you may trash 2 cards from the top of your deck to give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost for the turn. I still think that this is a top meta contender, even though it struggles against Blackbeard.
Okay.
I think that the ability to either single target remove a large body or multi-remove multiple bodies is still a huge issue in the game.
Okay.
And I still think that it can still hit and strike down a lot of other decks, and that it is really just kind of bad into Blackbeard and, you know, and NBY Luffy, to be fair. NBY Luffy. And because it is still the king of multi-removal, I think that we'll just have to see what NA ends up favoring.
Okay.
For it to be like, oh, do we still think Lucci is going to be the king, the regional winning king?
The king!
Or if, like, you know, most Lucci players will definitely make the transition to Blackbeard, understand the deck, be like, okay, I get it. But then they'll be like, but I'm still a Lucci diehard because I put, like, you know, half a year of my life into running this one deck, right?
So, and it was really good.
And it was really good.
You know the play lines.
And it's still kind of good, despite, like,
I mean, it's good against almost everything else, right? Like, let's not dunk on it, like, unnecessarily.
Yeah, 100%. I still think that it wins a lot of, and especially Doflamingo, I still think, like, it...
Oh, yeah, you're cooking us still. I mean, it's 60-40, but you're cooking us still.
Yeah, and, like, yeah, I've spent enough time with the deck itself to understand mostly what it does, right? Yeah. Like, I think there's still, like, a high skill ceiling to go. Like, I'm, like, 3/4 of the way there. There's that one.
There's like the sequencing for 6 turns ahead that you may not understand.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah.
If I could just jump in real quick, I think the thing for me is that, like, I think all your points are absolutely valid. And I think for me what has me down on this is that when you strip away what this can do, so, like, the first step to being the Blackbeard, right, is what is the leader providing? And every other black leader except for 2 we haven't named, and 1 that we were gonna name is not in the contention at all. When you strip it away, this leader just mills 2 cards.
Yeah.
Reduces 1, the 1 reduction isn't that great. Like, when you boil it away, it's like, it's not that great because the rum reduction is really good when you're pairing it with a multi-play combo on play.
Correct, yes.
And it can still get there with it, but otherwise it's really just reduce 1, mill 2. The Smoker reduces 1 and can swing for an extra 1,000.
Yes.
So it gets aggressive.
Yeah.
The OP3 Lucci can swing twice, so it gets aggressive. The Moria can swing high, populate a body, so it stays aggressive. And the one good one we haven't talked about outplays the black removal by boosting cost.
Yes.
And so my issue is, at the end of the day, are we really going to force this just for every other matchup and start at a like, I don't think we start at 0. I think we start at -1 when we choose this leader against Blackbeard, then when we choose every other black leader except for one that starts at like -1 billion against Blackbeard.
Yeah.
So that's just my issue from like a technical theory crafting deck building perspective. Obviously there is playmaking and matchup like based like averages and like favoritism in the 10-round event versus non-favoritism that go into it outside of just the one-on-one matchup. But for me, it seems like we're starting at a bad striking point at getting past the definitive gatekeeper part.
Right. And like some players will kind of argue the fact that like you just don't prepare for your losing matchup, right?
Sure.
And like some players will, but like the thing
But the
is,
losing matchup is going to be near, from what I've seen, near Sakazuki before it was tier 0 and 5 when it was like tier S.5, like
it makes you wonder like if you
levels.
should do that. I feel like Lucci is at that precipice where Gecko Moria was at, right?
Yeah.
Where like Gecko Moria and Lucci like are staring at each other. Lucci being the new deck, and then Gecko Moria being the new deck, and like Lucci is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Lucci being the old deck, you mean?
Sorry, my bad.
Lucci being the new deck, and the Blackbeard being the old deck,
No.
and then they turn the Darth Maul the old deck, and they're like, oh, we're gonna mess you up.
No, in my thoughts, like when Gecko Moria was the black deck for a bit, right? It was staring up at Obi-Wan Lucci.
Yeah.
And it was like, I think I could get there, and then it couldn't, right? And I think that now the tables have turned, where Lucci is now staring up at Obi-Wan Blackbeard.
Lucci's staring at Darth Vader.
Yeah. And then he's like, I'm no longer Anakin Skywalker, and we're gonna f you up with a bunch of rocks. So
except for technically, I think he just gave himself over, but that's semantics.
Whatever. Either way, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I think that that's where we're at right now. We're about to see who the new Black Leader King is. And I think 10 will decidedly say that it is Blackbeard, to be honest.
Sure, there's an opening right now.
There's an opening right now. So we'll just have to see. And I think that because we'll have to see, I still think that this is top cutting. I still think that there are still Lucci truthers out there.
I'm happy with putting it there. I would push it down, if anything, to like
Rogue.
No, actually, it doesn't make sense. Like, just I would just put it lower in the top cutting, I think. Because it's like Blackbeard is like so bad. And then Doffy is only 60-40. And now if you're gonna build it to be Blackbeard, a lot of the concessions you're making are probably making the Doffy matchup better, right? And then Purple Luffy, I don't even know how that matchup goes, but I feel like it's pretty fine. I feel like it's similar to Doffy, where it's like maybe the Lucci is favored. It cannot be by that much though.
Yeah.
So
I think it's favored, but like because it's 5 costs, that's what the problem was.
And Shanks, I don't even know about Shanks. I don't even know about how Shanks obviously have a lot of high reduction, maybe move the finger pistol harder.
Yeah. I think a lot of the Shanks players in JP were really focused on getting over Lucci still.
Okay.
So
good to know.
Yeah, I mean that's what lime juice exists for. And then last on these 7 leaders is Vegapunk. Vegapunk is a 5,000 power yellow 2-life leader that can't attack with an effect that reads pay 1 to play a 5-cost or less egghead or put it on top of your life face up. I think this is a secret sleeper still.
Secret sleeper.
I think that this is a secret sleeper still.
Listen, y'all begged for Law to be banned so you can play your Vegapunks.
And then not play them.
And most of y'all, some of you did, and I respect you. And a bunch of you didn't. And I'm like, brother, you either play that shit or you give me my boy back, okay? One or the other, no complaints. 1v1 me, bro.
It would be crazy if they actually banned Red Purple Law just so that Vegapunk could like shamble. But yeah, it performed very well in JP, and then there are still people who are still performing well in JP with it. There are people who are performing in Southeast Asia with it, and there are people who are performing in NNA sort of with it. I think that the ability to begin flooding a board with a 5 costs on 1 is always going to be relevant. I think that the Luffy being able to pop any 4 costs is going to be relevant into the Doflamingo matchup. I think that there are a lot of strong option cards now with 09. You have a lot of ways to build and cook this deck. You could lean hard on the Seraphims. You could lean hard on the Stellas. On the
Yeah, the Stella. Yeah.
Are they Stellas?
Right.
I thought Stella was the guy.
Satellite. Yep.
Yeah, you could lean hard on the satellites.
You can mess that one up.
Yeah, I know. We almost got cooked again. Or you can lean hard on like the Straw Hat eggheads, right? There's a way to like build it and tool it specifically for your big brain IQ plays, and I think that it could. I think it just overall loses because of the way that you are doing it. You're going down in cards faster than you. Because of the nature of how you're playing.
I mean, you inherently generate less card advantage than every other deck because you start at 2 life.
Yes, correct.
So that is 2 to 3 cards you are missing out on that you just do not see during the game.
Yeah.
Comparatively.
Yeah.
And to why did it take so long? I've been talking about this for a bit before people figured it out. Why did it take so long for people to figure out, like, oh yeah, maybe I don't put my first card in life. Maybe I just commit to the board like a Iceburg deck. Like I've been saying. Like, what? Like, why? Like, so long I would see people like, first play, not you. First play, like put it in life, and then next play they would show me the Atlas they already have in hand. I'm like, why is this Atlas not on the board? Or they put Atlas into the life.
Yeah.
And it's just like, brother, like, why is the Atlas not cracking my face? Even if you're going second and I'm getting the first swing, why is the Atlas not cracking my face guaranteed?
Yeah.
Like, put something else there. Don't put the Atlas there, brother. I'm not gonna give you the free Atlas, the crack into my face. Like,
as a Vegapunk, like as
a Vegapunk.
As a Vegapunk, yeah, maybe I could be.
As a member of Punk Records.
Yeah. Anyway, like as a Vegapunk cook or pet decker, right? Like
as someone that enjoys yellow decks, that's all you got.
Yeah. Like your Atlas. This is a free tip. Your Atlas becomes a pseudo blocker. Anything that you play turn 1 that then cracks back is a pseudo blocker, so you don't have to add it to life first, guys. It's just better tempo. Sorry, like they're gonna want to hit into it. Don't counter for it. Don't counter for it. It's fine. You don't have to counter for it because you'll just play something else next turn. Okay, just take it. Take that free advice. Go forth.
Run with the wind.
Fight all the Doflamingo.
Where is this ending up at?
Rogue. Stays a local.
Yeah, a Rogue.
Or stays local.
I think it's like bottom of Rogue.
I think it's bottom of Rogue, top of stays local.
My fear is again like every other control deck that isn't Blackbeard because it's a stun deck control deck. The format's just way too diverse to really narrow in on the key pieces you need to have. Also, Kid is a satellite. Just gonna say it. Moving on to OP08, Marco is a red-blue 4-life leader with Dawn 1 activate main that allows you to draw a card, then place any card from your hand on top or bottom of your deck, after which you'll give a character your opponent controls minus 2,000 power for the turn. Marco is unparalleled when it comes to card selection, allowing you to sculpt your hands, dig for every 1 or 2 up piece in your deck because you're going to see so many cards in the matchup you care about them for, while reducing cards on board, and of course can also set up top deck manipulations for multi-plays with the Nightcall Sanji or the Ace. Also, the great support from the starter deck Blackbeard deck is also awesome. Getting to set up a Rush Ace that's hard to remove is really powerful. The 7-Beard is also really strong as well. Getting more 2Ks within the archetype of Search is fantastic. And of course, local hero Eggman cooked this shit to oblivion. And I really feel like deadass that like Eggman figuring out how to like make this deck work. I know someone was screaming for him, like Eggman like popularizing it with his top. Like really just felt like someone like over baking a meme. Like it's like you took the deck and you over baked it for like an overbaked YouTube meme. And it's like base, like I see the deck list. I see the deck list and I hear the base boost in my brain. Like, how did we get here? Unfortunately for Eggman and all the enjoyers, this deck is all about spending the early game accruing lots of value manipulation. So you have plenty of life, plenty of counter, plenty of interaction to top and bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb, and play some games stuff like Jozu to like tempo out characters to keep them on board and have an attacker. The problem is now is that all of that is on play. All of this stuff is on play to accrue early value. All the stuff is on play to tempo, and the late game is all on play. So you completely You completely fold to Blackbeard. You also blow against Blackbeard too. It's pretty nasty. Doffy's already a really hard matchup. It's not unwinnable, but I personally have never lost to it. I think I played the Eggman version 8 or 9 times. It's not like that's not like too many, but considering how little get registered, I feel like that's a lot. And I haven't had a problem. I think Purple Luffy might be a problem point. The going to low life early, giving them an opening when like you're going to life low and then you're not pressuring still until another turn cycle is like pretty big for letting them set up their stuff. But I think overall it's not matching up well, and it has like 2 really bad losses in the top cut. So for me, I'm saying it's like, I kind of want to say it stays at locals. It's probably Rogue though, just because the format's so diverse.
Yeah.
It probably ends up being Rogue. So I'm gonna stick with Rogue on
I think
this.
it becomes like a meta call, right? So I think because of that, it's Rogue.
Also, like real quick, Shanks. Shanks I think is an awful matchup for that deck, just straight up. You can just play the aggro roll, shift it up, and like punish them being a 4-life leader.
Yeah.
The value they accrue defensively does not match the top end of Shanks. Shanks will dismantle the board pieces like Jozu as they put them down, so you're not actually preparing anything on board to be like to back up your Rayleigh plays and such.
That's true.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna guess Shanks is gonna be pretty highly rated on this list. And so now we're just like stacking the top with just bad matchups. Also, I don't know how they beat Bonnie. Like, am I crazy? Is that a good matchup? I haven't watched enough gameplay of it, but I feel like it's not a good matchup also. And I think that deck is still real.
You have access to like red rock removal. That's kind of
okay, but I think already losing the Shanks is like out.
Yeah. Calgar is a 5-life yellow leader. Dawn ×1. When attacking, play up to 1 Shandian warrior with a cost equal to or less than the number of Dawn on the field. If you add 1 card from the top of your life cards to your hand. So this leader has a very linear gameplay, and it is linearly built as well because it is a leader contained within its set.
Yeah.
Because of this, it doesn't have a lot of skill expression.
You are seeing Green Wano play out in real time if you just newly entered the game.
Yes, exactly. And because of that, it kind of feels. It doesn't kind of. It feels bad.
Yeah.
I know that Orange Samurai actually likes cooking with his deck.
I thought it was Orange Samurai, not Yellow Samurai.
If once there's an orange card, or once there's an orange color in this deck,
Color 7, orange.
Cool. That'd be cool. It's just red yellow
Yeah.
or something like. Anyway, but yeah, it is linear gameplay, but it is still strong gameplay. So you could still eke out some wins with this. But because I think that it kind of pigeonholes itself into what it's wanting to do, what it's trying to do, and what you are geared to doing. You kind of lose to Doffy also. That's the other thing.
I think one big thing holding this back is that Purple Luffy is obviously one of the best decks in the format. And it's another deck that takes life for generated card advantage. This one on board, Luffy going big. I think that Luffy is I'm not saying that Calgar couldn't beat Luffy because the matchup is like, being hyper-aggressive into a leader taking its life is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But I think that Luffy does better things in the format, and if everyone's already preparing for Luffy, be like, how can I take advantage of them taking their own life? You're taking your own life to do something that is worse than Luffy in the way it pairs into other decks, because aggro is already a thing people are ready for, and now it's like, cool, you're paying life to get aggressive, but we're already prepared for aggression because Doffy is such a huge, large body aggression deck. Shanks can be played as a large body aggression deck, so prepare for that. And I feel like that your opponent's gonna be overly prepared for your underpowered deck that is just kind of like picking away at itself.
Yeah. And not only that, we're kind of prized into actually playing a vanilla. Like we need to play a vanilla. Like, so I think that this deck stays at locals. So.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Red Green Chopper is a red-green 4-life leader with activate main once per turn that lets you attach 1 Rested Dawn up to 3 Drum Kingdom or Animal-type characters. With his ability, Chopper is looking to build with aggressive boards of cheap bodies in those subtypes while getting to leverage their Dawn 1 abilities as a discounted rate because of his activated leader ability and pumping them up to get in for big damage. Smashing Face with cheap effective characters is very Zoro-coded. We talked about Zoro earlier. Basically what it comes down to is, like Calgara, there is really no direct support for this. There is the stuff from last set that like Calgara got. There was a few animals outside that set, but most of the ones you play are in that set if they're not literally chopper cards. And we have not continued to get any in this set, and we are not telegraphed to get any in the next set, I believe.
No.
So basically this is a really fun deck. You can totally win at locals with it because the way that it tempos out wide, no one else is actually doing right now. Like Zoro's even moving away from it. But if you really enjoy Chopper, and you should play it if you enjoy it, you should consider going to Zoro if you're looking to get some better, higher end, more competitive, longer events. But for 4-round locals, I'm pretty happy still playing this deck if you really enjoy it, and that's why I think it stays at locals.
Yeah, Carrot is a 5-life green leader with activate main once per turn. If you have a Minx, rest up to 1 of your opponent's characters with 5 or less.
Dying on the Vine.
Yeah, every single time I look at this leader, I just think about how this is such a cool leader.
It's so cool.
It's really cool. But the thing about
it's flavorful and impactful mechanically. Like, and it's a really cool effect that matches what Minx are doing like in the world. Yeah. And then it's also like, hey, this is a good effect. Like, great.
However, it's mainly focusing on the mid game, which is non-existent in One Piece. So like you're really focusing on like
everyone's
a 5...
either trying to accelerate into
Yeah.
the really hyper-aggressive early game or skip the mid-game
Yeah.
entirely right now.
Yeah, and like so that means that the range of 5-cost things that are coming down on board isn't like sufficient for the leader. You know what I mean? Like this is it's kind of a missed opportunity. Laboon though.
Yeah.
Could rush that Laboon. I mean, I guess. But
yeah.
sure, but
I think on top of that though, it's like, okay, so let's pretend like it is in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we got one set of support. And that barely gave us enough to cobble together a good a good deck for locals, let alone a highly competitive, viable deck.
yeah.
And now we're just, everything else gets another power creep increase, and we are flatlining.
Yeah. And it's really, really cool when you can get the play loop of this this leader and this deck going. But more often than not, you kind of you start strong, you start chugging along, and then you just don't have the pieces to continue the loop, right?
Yeah.
And with that happening, you don't have a lot of top end to help facilitate your end game, which is hard.
I will say, good Doffy matchup.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, true,
Doffy,
true.
if they see the first couple things on sequence, because late game we're still resolving 4 drops. Mostly.
Yeah, true.
So it's like carrot into carrot leader into carrot character into carrot character on attack activation with Itarashi backing up on the play. Really good.
Really good.
Really good.
Really good. But yeah, I think it stays at locals.
Yeah, more than fair.
Yeah.
Purple Black King is a 4-life leader with activate main Dawn -2. Choose between giving a character -2 to their cost for the turn, or draw a card if your hand size is 5 or less. King has access to the classic power cards from Purple Animal Kingdom, like Onigashima, 4-white Kaido, Blocker Queen, and that's just to name a few off the top. A couple of OP08's black card pool they've added. There's a lot of opportunity to get ahead and stay ahead with OP08's 7-cost Jack, 9-cost Kaido, and 9-cost Linlin. These bodies are big and opposing, and also notably build into activating effects after the leader gets to activate his effect, meaning we're moving away from on play, insulating him a bit from the Blackbeard stun menace. Unfortunately, even though it does that, the 4-life leader is a little soft. The Onigashima is not quite good enough right now, especially when people are preparing for ramp opponents that are in Purple Luffy, and Purple Luffy is better insulating himself while doing it, whereas Jack is like, you play Onigashima, you didn't establish a body, and you're already at 4 life, you get more value turn over turn, but it really matters about like that short burst in the beginning to really get there. Whereas Luffy, it's like, I have Mr. 2s and my leader ability.
Yeah.
That's really good. And so I think it suffers again the people being over-prepared for the gameplay style, and the gameplay style of this leader, or the card selection for this leader being underprepared to sufficiently deal with that and make up the fact that people are hyper looking at them. Now, this deck does have Gecko Moria in it. I'm sure it could really cook something crazy. And I think the fact that it just like everything else in the deck inherently, like let's remove Big Mom, let's just put in Moria, and then let's do like Jack and Kaido's, means it can play a pseudo black deck strategy and still get around Blackbeard, gives it some wheels. But I think I'm just gonna recommend it for locals. I just don't see how like this deck is kind of trying to be like a control deck.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. So again, suffers from too diverse format mechanically, and then also doesn't have enough like backbone or like layered on like good foundational turns early to isolate it or to insulate it from being absolutely ravaged by early game or absolutely taken over the top by late game because you didn't pressure enough early game yourself. So yeah, that for me stays at locals, but I think it is an interesting spot. I think it also like, it's just nice that like a stays at locals deck like this doesn't get absolutely like, there's a lot of stays at locals I talk about where it's like you play against Blackbeard, already one of the best things in the format, and then you just don't even get to have fun, right?
Yeah.
This deck at least gets to stay in the picture and like compete a little bit more, so
Yeah.
I think it's like a nice cool thing to flag if you really like purple and black abilities. This is a deck that kind of will survive that a bit and let you do your thing.
Nice. Pudding time.
Pudding time.
Pudding is a 4-life yellow-purple leader that has a when attacking, you may turn 2 cards from the top of your life face up and add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and rest it. Pudding provides really complex gameplay with just kind of not a huge payoff, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it's really wholly contingent on the 6-cost Katakuri.
Yep.
And it has a bad mid game that doesn't translate very well into a good end game.
10 Mom literally carries this deck on its back.
Yeah. And at that point, just play Katakuri. To be honest, I'm not gonna.
I'm gonna yuck your yum, but
Yeah. But I mean, it's cool to ramp the 10 Mom a turn earlier.
depends what you're worried about.
Yeah.
In the format, right?
Yeah. But I'm not gonna want to spend a lot of time on this leader, to be honest. I'm gonna say that it stays a local.
Yeah, I think we talked about it a lot earlier with Crocodile enough. A streamline. You're trying to do the same 2 to 3 things and then slam top bombs. You do those things well or you don't do them well. and I think it's more than not aside from your mulligan, your opening hand, it's matchup dependent.
Yeah.
It's like wholly matchup dependent.
Yep.
And before we get to the brand new OP09 cards, we of course have to go through our leaders. Some of these, because they're starter decks, like they're a lot easier to go through because some of them are completely invalidated because they're touchstones for the time you enter the game. Like our first one, Red Luffy, is a red 5-up leader. Activate main, give a Rested Dawn to one of your leaders or characters. If you're trying to leverage 6k swings while building out your board consistently, but that's not enough to run with the big boys. I mean, Dragon is like a way better version of this effect, and he can't even run with the big boys right now. So this was just simply unplayable to me. Yeah. Dragon invalidates wanting to play it, and we do. I mean, that's not out now, so it doesn't matter for the rankings. But we're getting this +2 version with the new starter deck coming out in a bit. So yeah, even if you disagree with me, let's just agree that we're preemptively moving it down to unplayable. Yeah. And that's that.
Yep. Purple Kaido, kind of the same thing.
I haven't got to play with my paper today. I'm gonna play with my paper. Oh, the bank shot! Oh, nice. We love it.
Purple Kaido, 5-life leader, activate main once per turn. Dawn -7, trash 1 opponent life card. Really good effect, actually. Really good leader effect. But you can only use it like kind of towards the end game. And also, despite having such a powerful ability, this deck is kind of kneecapped by not having any purple searchers.
Yeah, Black Maria I was really hoping for. And it's I think this is like one of those decks that's kind of sitting though. Like I think it was over-designed for the start of the game, and I feel like they're either being careful or they want to explore more design where like it's not coming back to. And I feel like it's like one thing's gonna get released and then all of a sudden it's just gonna snap over and be like pop like Nami. Like Nami was always good when it came out, but it wasn't like a terror and then just one day, I mean banlist aside from the mid-banlist 4.5 format, it was like one day we just get the Kuja Pirates and it's like terror mode, like
Yeah, I think, it's definitely one of those where like one thing just makes it snap.
Yeah, so thank you, I can't snap. I really need someone to snap for me.
Fine. Yeah, that being said, I think it's meh and stays at locals.
Yeah, I think it's meh, but I think you're totally fine playing it at locals and it's really fun to do it. It has a unique game line, but Powerlize is definitely a meh. Yeah. Green Kid is a 5-life leader with activate main once per turn. You can pay 3 Dawn and trust cover your hand. Set the leader as active, allowing Kid to swing twice at a turn. The max you can do is 2 12k swings. Unfortunately, Kid's just been like, gone from being an absolute house to being like full wayside. Uniquely, you do get to leverage Supernova dependent leader cards like Cavendish, which can be really good. But overall, it's asking too much for double attack. And while double attack is good, there's not enough like green. In my opinion, we need like a large body that has activate main rest something. Like you know how you have the who's the really joke Green Bull. Aramaki. You have the Aramaki, which is like, it can activate main to bottom deck anything at any time, right, for blue. We need like big body that does that for green so that you can establish a large threat, remove a blocker or set up like a piece that you want to attack into, and then be able to still double attack 12 Kid into leader or that, and have the Aramaki type character to be able to attack as well. It's just too hard to set up the Kid boards. The leader ability to support setting up the board to leverage the Kid anymore because we're way too interactive, whereas Bonnie's the reverse. Bonnie's really good for green decks because it lets you, the leader is doing the setup for everything else. There really isn't the green stuff to help you set up the leader. It just doesn't exist in the way the game currently works. So because of that, it's kind of done at meh. I would love to see it back up again. But I see also the draw for playing it for people because having like a cool Voltron leader. Also, notably, Bandai is clearly obsessed, or not obsessed, that's a negative. Bandai is clearly focused on supporting RP Kid for the long term, at least right now, based on signposting from current and future support cards and current interaction. And I think the leader is really cool. So it seems like they really aren't interested in keeping Kid as a green focused leader, and they want to build on that one, which means direct support for him is low, and then if it's supernova based support, the body probably just runs away with it. Or like any version of Wall that's in green probably runs away with it.
Blue Croc is a 5-life leader, activate main once per turn. Dawn -4, return up to 1 character with a cost of 5 or less to the owner's hand. This is, I think, one of the only blue cards that Dawn minuses. And it felt like they didn't know what to do, and because of that, it was power crept on really hard. There is a leader we are going to mention later. Just play that one instead. Or like use Red Rock.
It's cool because it's like one of the leaders with like direct support that isn't Bonnie, or direct interaction, right? Not support. But yeah, like if it's just like, even Dawn -3, or Dawn, or it's like 1 cost up, right? We're so close.
Yeah, we were close.
But
but it's just too hard. It's just like, because there's no way to ramp it. I don't know. It's just really hard. So I think it's unplayable.
Purple Shanks is a 5-life purple leader, lets you Dawn -3, give all your film type characters 2 levels of power for the turn. we talked about Uda. This leader is downright terrible because it relies on the film card pool. The film card pool is fine. There are some standout individual cards.
Wait, this isn't the Shanks that we've been talking about this whole time?
Oh, no, sorry. This is
the Shanks?
It's terrible. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's just completely unplayable. And if you really care about Shanks, there's actually a good leader of him now. So you can play that. This one is just completely unplayable. You could argue power level wise, it might actually be meh because of purple shenanigans, but trust me, this is the one time where I'm saying that, like, even if you're gonna argue the power level somehow better, which I don't really think you can because the leader effect's so bad, the headache is even worse. So it's just not worth that point. Move on. Next is Black Sakazuki, the one I've been hinting at, which is the only black leader I have no faith in. Black Sakazuki is a 5-life black leader with activate main once per turn. Pay 3 and trash a card from your hand. The KO will cost 0 character. We have moved away from getting things that cost 0 a long time ago. Yeah. If anything, the Blackbeard deck is the closest thing to it with the Doc Q trying to do ones. And you can't play Blackbeard and you can't play Sakazuki and play all those Blackbeard cards. Yeah. They're locked. Yeah. So unfortunately, this leader is just atrocious. Black design has evolved past this almost immediately. And even if you build versions of it that do kind of like get there like pretty reasonably, even if you found an efficient way to get things to 0, time over time, the big things, the small things, trashing a card on top of paying 3, so you have 7 Dawn to do all that with is a lot to ask and not feasible. Yeah. And when you can make something, not actually like really streamlined thing work, but something work, the headache is completely, it's just nauseatingly like headache inducing.
Like even in its heyday, right on a release, people did not play Black Sakazuki.
Yeah, that's why Smoker Leader Altar was so expensive, aside from like the scarcity of the product. Like it was the most expensive like leader, even in 3 when Black was bad, or not bad, but it was so much worse. Like in 2 it was like it's competitive. 3 you weren't even in it. That leader was still so expensive because it's like, well, if you want to play Black, it's the only viable leader. Yeah, so get it out, just no.
Charlotte Linlin is a yellow leader with Dawn ×2 when attacking. Add 1 card from the top or bottom of your life. If you have 2 or less cards, add up to 1 from hand to the top of the life cards. So like the really, really fun part about this leader is something that we always kind of wanted to do which was set up traps in our life, right? So you get to set up traps, but ultimately you still have to take that life if you want to trigger it, bringing you down a life and a card from hand for maybe something on the board. Like the best thing you could have done in the beginning was like Thunderbolt, right?
Thunderbolt, yeah.
Soul Focus.
You could Soul Focus is really good.
Soul Focus is really good.
You could also set up the 2-cost 5k counter event that was Amaru back then as your last life. And
thankfully, like it doesn't restrict what you're setting up in your life, so that's still kind of a plus for it. So now with new yellow cards, that's kind of circumvented by like with Nami or like 5-cost Luffy.
I would love to get back to this leader. This playstyle is so unique and cool for yellow, and it like at least made me feel like, unlike Katakuri, my opponent like actually planned a strategy against like, I don't. Whereas like for them, it's like we're just let's go gambling, and I love let's go gambling. Don't get me wrong, but like for real, it's like when you lose to those matches, especially when you're favored, it's like, brother, you just sat there and played your cards. You didn't even do anything. Like if I like the few times I've lost to a yellow mom back in the day, I was like, congratulations, sir. I saw you're running the numbers, and great job on your Matrix mind. Yeah. And that's when they had like 2 Soul Focus in life already. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Either you got it or you don't. I think that this deck is kind of on stay locals level, to be honest.
I think it's unique enough.
Yeah, I think it's unique enough. I think that if you are smart enough to play with what you have, and what you've cooked, then you could definitely win a locals.
I also think OP08 Nami's a big app for this deck.
Oh yeah.
Because you want to play so many triggers that have so many options at all times.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Nami. Yeah. And because you're going down 1 card in hand to set up that Nami, drawing it back up and then triggering it to draw.
You're filtering the set up your hand for what you want to put in life. So like if you have a bunch of dead counter cards in hand that you don't want to play, you're playing them because you want to put them in life, or like Soul Focus is right, you're like, I don't have time to put them in life. You can filter them out to an ability, which is really nice.
Yeah, there you go. Black Luffy starter deck 8, 5 life leader, black leader. Your turn, when a character is KO'd, add 1 Dawn card to this leader.
I'm gonna be real. Oh, sorry. Is there another piece of text on there?
No.
Okay. I forgot about this leader.
Yeah.
I forgot about this leader.
We should just forget about this leader. Actually.
Okay, where are we putting it?
Play Smoker, dude. Just play Smoker. It's unplayable, okay?
Okay.
It's unplayable.
I mean, it's like Garp, right? Like you're gonna like KO stuff and then it's reverse Garp. This is how Garp should have been designed. It's like when you KO stuff, you get the add Rosinante or whatever. That would have been more interesting. Yeah. Which is cool, and it was cool early game for Black. But we're at the point where the black leader needs to facilitate the KO, not get bonus from the KO.
Yeah.
With the exception, I mean, like, I said that, but then I also said 3 Lucci's kind of good. But double attack, I think, is better than equipping Rest of Dawn by a large margin.
Yeah. Sucks. So whatever. Unplayable.
Unplayable.
Yeah. We also have Yellow Yamato, 5 life leader, Dawn ×1. If you have 2 or less life cards, leader is at 1k power plus.
This card was so good when it came out.
Oh, yeah.
For like the month and a half between sets it came out.
Yeah. Was this before or after Whitebeard?
After Whitebeard, right before 4, I believe.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, because this is when Elias joined. Because it was Yamato, Vivi.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you become a 6k leader on your opponent's turn.
Oh, sorry. Yamato, Rebecca, Vivi.
I remember the Rebecca era. Yeah. You become a 6k leader on your opponent's turn, which is a pretty good...
but only in the late game.
Yeah, only in the late game. So you don't have a leader ability until you lose 3 life?
Yeah, and being a 6k leader, the value of that is doing it early, so your opponent has to choose between splitting resources for development and splitting resources for attacking.
Yeah.
And so if they split the resources, being able to counter out for cheap. And this does it in the late game where it's like, cool, I mean, it's not irrelevant.
Yeah.
But I have 7, 8, 9Ks on board.
Yeah. And also you are needing to Dawn equip 1 for that to be relevant.
I'm like just realizing, like, aside from wanting to play yellow, like you just, okay, it's not a 1-for-1 value, but it's like, you get 1,000 for every attack. So there's like 3 attacks you deal with. You essentially gain 3,000, right?
Right. Yeah.
But like if it's just 1 or 2 attacks, you might as well play Shanks and have the ability up all game, and also protect your characters, right? Like.
Yeah. I mean, just play Shanks. But actually, that being said, I think it's meh.
Yeah, I think it's meh. There's a cool like yellow Wano shenanigans. So.
Yeah.
RP Law's banned, and we don't have the one in English, so we're not going to talk about the errata this time. RP Kid is a 5 life, 5,000 power leader with ability gives a -1,000 on your turn if you have 3 or more life cards. It also features an on-attacking Dawn -1 ability that gives him +2,000 for the turn. Notably, this isn't once per turn ability, which is really relevant because we just got a new killer, and that killer says, on play Dawn -1, reset your Eustass Kid leader, which means you can attack for 5, activate, now you're at 7 on that swing, they take the life. The life can only add up to 2,000 power with the exception of if it's a counter and they have Dawn up, right? And then you untap it, attack again, Dawn minus again, and even validate the card hat. So if they couldn't counter the first time, they cannot counter the second time. Obviously, they could just have chosen not to. But if they can't, they still can't, which is just great lineup functioning. It's like, this is what I'm talking about. This is an evolution of the green kid, like tempoing here. It's also clear that Bandai is really interested in making this like propped up as the definitive kid for now, aside from the yellow one that's coming out. But the yellow one feels like it's more about like the supernovas in a new way, and it's going to be more generically yellow with buffering supernovas. This feels like in terms of like kid pirates, like kid Voltron leader, like you're building into this. Yeah. We're also buffered by the new heat, which is kind of nice to stop your opponent from starving you. And the new 3-drop kid, which lets you take a life to ramp a card, which means that your opponent can like not starve you out of being a 5k leader on your turn. However, even with that, there's only 5 copies of the kid. There's only 4 copies of the kid. And 4 copies of the heat, and the heat's like fine. It builds 1 turn, but doesn't break you out of the being starved. I think overall, it's time for some of the Belo Betty issue. Not as hard, where I'm going to say this stays at locals now. I think the new tools are super cool. Build it up to being like a functional package in its entirety with what already exists and with generically in the color. But there's still just a little too much early game. I get to dictate your flow, or I dictate you have to play certain cards to get out of that flow, and knowing you're going to play those cards, I can play accordingly and kind of pigeonhole you more. But not nearly as bad as Belo, so this stays at locals, and start cooking, guys.
And up next is RP Luffy. 6k power, 3 life, activate main. If you have 0 Dawn cards or 8, you may add 1 active Dawn. Secret heater deck.
Brother, I was so excited for you to talk about this leader.
Oh my god! This leader's amazing! This leader's really bare.
Someone back signal AJ, please.
Oh my god.
It's your time, brother.
I saw him today. I'm like, AJ, yeah, I did. I was like, AJ, did you realize it's your time? And he's like, oh my god, yeah. I know it's my time. I have so many brews. I'm like, yeah, you gotta stick to one though.
As long as they include Giant, we're fine, okay? I think as long as he plays Gum Gum Giant in all of them, I think he's cooking.
And funny enough, I think you could put Red Hawk in this one.
I think it's not incorrect. It's also searchable.
Yeah. And it's
a straw hat event.
Yeah. So this is very powerful.
Even the law can search it. It's not even Rad Beam.
Yeah.
Even the law
can search it.
Oh man, cooking, dude.
Very powerful with the new red top end and all the new purple cards and tools from the starter and from our new set here. 10 cost Luffy loop is insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
You can do it really well. Probably not as well as another leader that we're gonna mention, but it's fine.
Is that leader also named Monkey D. Luffy?
That Luffy leader is that Luffy leader. Done it be. Gum Gum Giant is also the best card in the game. And really,
I want to
really
say
good
it's
at
the
this.
best card.
I think it's the best card in this format, honestly. One of them. So
I think it's it's debatably the best one drop in the whole game.
There you go. There you go. That's probably good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's the best counter event in my opinion, actually, right now.
Oh yeah. Counter event. Yeah, because we're eliminating Ice Age.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And a few other things. Yeah.
And it's really good with RP Luffy who wants to draw those cards and pitch out the bricks.
And you also are at net neutral cards.
Yeah.
You counter 4K and stay at the same number of cards in hand.
Yeah.
That's literally insane.
You go from 6 to 10.
Yeah.
Off of 1 Dawn. And gain 2 cards.
So where is this at in your opinion?
I think it's Rogue.
Yeah?
I think it's Rogue.
Okay.
I think that this is Rogue. I think that I can see, like, I could just see it now. I can see the Twitter post now. I can see it. I went 8-1 with Luffy. A top 64.
I don't have the data to back this and practice it, but in my brain, like my theory crafting brain, this feels like a top cutting deck to me. Like it's on the lower end.
Yeah.
It's like one of the ones where it's like, we're talking about like top 64s. Let's say top 32s to make it simple, right? Like top 32 is like it gets 6 at one, and then 2 at another, and then 4 at this one, and then 1 at this one, and then it gets 5 at the next one. And it's kind of a seesaws a bunch.
Yeah.
I think NA players have yearned for this deck to be good. And for a deck like this into a format like this. I think we're going to see a lot more openness to figure it out.
Yeah. I think I'm going to make my first concession. I think I'm going to
You're going to bump it up?
I'm going to bump it up.
Yes.
I will bump it up.
This feels like last time when I wanted to oversell. Who did I want to oversell? Was it Red Green Law? Or was it Ace? It was like someone I was like, I'm gonna like temper myself, and you're like, what? Yeah. What do you mean? And I'm like, okay, I can do it. I was like, I can do it. That's sick.
Green Film Uta is a 5-life leader with Dawn ×1 when attacking, once per turn, reveal 1 card from the top of your deck, add up to 1 film, then put it at the bottom if it's not.
So the most consistent deck in the whole game.
Yeah.
That's also like, not, I won't say like competitive, but viable.
Yes. And I think it is like one of the best multiplayers in the game.
Yeah, I can agree.
It is easy gameplay. It is very easy to learn, but it is just too easy. And I think that is very linear and very easy to deal with because we know exactly what you're doing and where you're positioning yourself and where you're trying to go.
Actually, sir, I was very aware of your game.
Yeah.
But your game's really scary still. So
yeah.
I actually think like after the starter deck, this is now the gamer's first competitive deck.
Yeah.
Like it used to be Zoro, and now it's like, I think actually Zoro like to actually win it. It's a little more complex now.
Yeah.
I think like you can win your locals with Uta. Less complex, but like still playing a powerful deck. Like not less complex in a negative, like I'm bashing as a player way, but like in a like, okay, you have to worry about your play lines and your opponent's play lines. And so it's easier to keep your sequencing in check while understanding like I have to do this attack here or this is my target or whatever.
The best way I can compare this to is if you are a League of Legends player, this is Garen. This is Garen. There's not much going on.
Where was he in Arcane?
In Demacia. But
I don't know.
I think this is baby. Yes, exactly. This is baby's first deck.ex, and I think that if you have a friend who is interested in playing the One Piece card game, but you have no time to teach them, I think this is the deck which they could easily piece together and just be like, oh, okay, so if I play this one plays, and then that one plays.
So we have to buy 2 different starter decks.
Yeah.
And get up to 2 copies of them for some cards.
But it's okay because everybody ripped the second starter deck to oblivion, so those cards are real cheap, so.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Next we have Zoro and Sanji, the cursed green-blue archetype. 4-life leader with Dawn 1 when attacking once per turn. That allows you to return one of your characters, cost 2 or more to the owner's hand, then set up to one of your characters with 7,000 power or less is active. Hannyabal, but for multi-attack. It's pretty cool. We actually can couple it with a bunch of on-play value abilities, or like abilities for like passively having cards on board and then returning them back. 2 noble ones, Sugar, rest something, get the first effect, you don't get the second effect, you return it to hand, it's counter power, or you play it again later to rest something. You can do Bucket, play some Weevils, and the Weevils are good targets for double attacking here. The biggest problem though is that like, the other thing to know is that you get like really good interaction pieces with the blue. So you get combat, control, multi-attack, kind of like Angle from green, and you get blue, value, and bottom decking interaction. The problem is you're giving up a lot of like power level ceiling to do both these things. If you're really interested in one of these mechanics, they're like, Doffy is where you want to be if you want to do bottom decking controlling right now. If you want to be in green multi-attacking, there are other decks for that. You can play anything with 9-cost Zoro in it. You can do shenanigans. You can play Red Green Law if you really want to play that deck. Like, that's totally fine. You can play Bonnie with Restandard Law because it still targets supernovas. So you can do Cavendish shenanigans. It's still worth it, right? But with this deck, it just like doesn't cobble together in the right way, especially in the turns that you actually do leave open. And especially with this not being a very early game set, like Sugar, I think, is at like a pretty low, for not getting the secondary ability, I should clarify. You're kind of at an all-time low on Sugar, like target actually value resting something you really want to get out of the way, or you really want to kill. And so because of that, I'm just going to put it at meh. It's fine if you want to play it at low goals. I see the appeal, like it's very unique. If this is what you really draws to you and calls you should totally play at low goals. I could see winning locals with this, like it's definitely a lot harder than other ones. But for other people that are looking like to play these mechanics particularly, that isn't like I have a leader that does like multi-attacks like this. It feels like it's powerful, like Zoro kind of deck. I would move on and just try to pick one of those mechanics and play a deck that plays that mechanic a lot cleaner and more powerful.
Black Yellow Luffy, 4-life leader, 5k power. Your face-up life cards are placed at the bottom of your deck instead of being added to hand as per the rules of the game. Dawn ×2, activate main, trash 1 card from your hand. If you are at 0 life, add up to 2 characters with a cost of 5 from your hand or trash to the top of your life cards face up. This deck, I think, will also be one of the ones that will always be around until something just says no.
Yep.
In the hands of those who know how to play him, I think this will always be an insane deck. I think that even Blackbeard can't put this deck away if they don't understand the intricacies of this deck. I think that like on play being turned off hurts Sabo massively, but everything else might still be fine. And I think that Blackbeard trumps this because of the large 12k blockers that it ends up playing at the end of the game that help get over its 9k pumping threshold for the leader, right?
Yeah. And then the Morio is very telegraphed, right?
Yes.
So you know, you actually don't have to ditch every turn.
Yeah.
Like you can probably be okay with them searching to a degree, not like a whole lot, but it's like you're like, I don't really care about this turn. I kind of like all these cards in my hand. I'll just won't discard because I just know when I need this card. I do have the counterpoint here is that I think the one thing that makes it really hard though is that you lose the ace. Yeah. You're losing the rush ace, which is the pivot point for making this into an aggressive deck. Out like the 5 Luffy's fine. The Rocket Luffy's okay. I mean, it's good in the Blackbeard. You can dismantle their board pieces, but they stay at card parity. So like, how good is it really when they need to do that? Laboon's the best target, I guess, right? Yeah, I want to say Laboon is the best target. Maybe no, Balloon's the best target. Yeah. But losing the ace to really pivot point into aggression as the play style.
On play, it sees it and then it gains rush.
Yeah, because it checks life on play.
Yep.
So that to me is like I like your points. I agree it's not dead. I've seen enough like flagship finishes so be like, okay, it's there. But saying that like, oh, I think a lot of the pieces survive. I gotta disagree with that. Like I think enough pieces survive where you can just kind of try to smack them around, but I don't know. I'm also not a Black Luffy player. Yeah. But from the outside, it feels very depressing. What's your Dean insight? As someone that talks to Dean more than side projects.
As my goat Dean says, it, I'm just gonna play Black Yellow Luffy.
Until I beat Jonas. Until I beat Jonas. We ball.
And he was on Blackbeard. He's like, I hate this deck. I'll just play Black Yellow Luffy.
That's so funny.
If it's good enough for Dean, I think it's good enough for me. I think
second place online regional finisher.
Yeah.
Losing to Jonas. Top 32.
Top 32 back-to-back weekends. Yep.
Well, yeah, but the first one was losing the finals for first place.
Correct. Yes.
I wouldn't even quantify that as top 32 back-to-back weekends.
That's true. That is second place.
Yeah.
Even though
he got seventh because of breakers. That was, which is insane. Which is actually like that's what I'm saying. Like when there's no top cut. Yeah. Like. It should just be that.
Yeah,
it should be
your place.
But if it's top cut, I agree. If you're like, well, I was second in Swiss, it's like, well, it doesn't matter because you lost top cut.
Do you think Goku would ever lose to breakers? Do you think Goku would ever get 7th in breakers? No. He gets second because he died somehow. I don't know. I don't watch Dragon Ball Z.
So where are we putting Black Yellow Luffy?
I think it's top cutting or regional winning.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think it's regional winning. So I'm gonna have to stop you right there.
Okay.
And say it's top cutting if we're gonna put it there. I do see this potentially following the rogue. I think. So we talk about a lot how like NA has a will to play certain decks and other people aren't. I do think NA has a will to play BY Luffy.
Yeah.
I also think NA has a will to dismantle BY Luffy.
Yeah, I think
the number of haters out there.
It could go either way.
I think the pressure is mounted on both ends.
I think that's true.
He's a certified hater. We hate the way that he talks. We hate the way that he walks. We hate the way that he activates and puts Dawn.
The way he don't smile, whack. The way he dress, whack.
The targets for Moria, whack. Up next, Red Yellow Sabo. Red Yellow Sabo is a 4-life leader with Dawn 1 activate main. Once you place a 7,000 power character on top of your life face up, then give up to one of your characters 2,000 power until the start of your next turn. Notably, that's not a base 7,000 power. That is 7,000 on the activation. So usually you're gonna pump it with Dawn and then throw all that power around. Convert that, like, you know, put a 5 to 7 with 2 Dawn, then give something else 2,000 power, so you still get that 2,000 Dawn somewhere. I cry. I talked about it in the last one. It was my rogue pick for the format, and then I was like, even if not, we're getting yellow support for 09. And it's so bad. We already talked about it, so I'm not gonna go through. If you want to hear us talk about it, because you skipped around, maybe go to Belo Betty and listen to Belo Betty about like how disappointing the yellow support has been. So I'm just gonna say, like, basically, like, I'm just gonna quantify it like this. I picked it as my rogue pick. Like, I think it's good risky seed last format. It didn't do that. And now power level's gone up. He stayed exactly the same. So if he wasn't good then, and dynamic shifts haven't happened, it opened up a deck that just like loses to it, which it doesn't, because it doesn't like have an ability that hurts other decks. It has an ability that helps his. Yeah. So because of that, it just stays at locals, unfortunately. I love this deck though. Great pack deck to have. I pray for the sun to shine on it.
It's so funny. I always lose to this deck at locals.
Next up is Blue Yellow Ace, a 4-life leader with Dawn 2 activate main once per turn. Look at top 5 cards of your deck and add up to one character would cost 5 from among them to the top of your life face up before placing the rest of the cards on the bottom of your deck. Then you have an end of turn trigger that checks to see if you have any face up cards and sends them all to the trash at the end of your turn. Ace wants to play a long interactive game. We now have a combination of blue Whitebeard support coming through from the Marco deck, which is really fun. We have a few more random pieces in this. Issho, right, is Whitebeard and Lanawano traded in this? Which is pretty cool. It's a really fun, unique, like yellow-blue control deck that wants to do cool card advantage grinding. It needs support. It is the thing. It's like, it's a cool concept that isn't really built upon in a meaningful way yet. I think are we about to get another 5 flipper though for blue? Why do I feel like we are?
I feel like...
Or maybe it's in... Oh, there's the technical... There's the one that's printed that's coming in the next best collection, or whatever. There's the yellow Sabo, I think. But like, we're about to get... Like, the biggest problem with this is, like, we don't have enough blue-yellow control tools, and we don't have enough brothers to flip, because we only have the ones we just got off Ace from the blocker and the multiplayer. And the multiplayer is great, like I said, because you have the new blue Whitebeard support, so, like, being able to flip that and then flip something on top of your deck is pretty good.
I don't think we have any blue brothers, right? Except for Ace, right?
That's Ace, yeah. But I was thinking about, I think there's a new yellow Sabo target coming out. So that being said, it's like, we just need tools. The concept is there, it's really cool. It's kind of like RP Kit. Like, the concept was there, it was cool, but the cards aren't there, and now the cards are starting to come. We need the faucet at Bandai to turn on a bit and give us a little bit more.
I do know that some people in our Discord were actually cooking this with Marshall D. Teach, which is
cool. Totally.
So,
I think that's like, again, like Marshall D. Teach helps these blue-yellow, especially blue-based combo decks really start to go off, use their Dawn efficiently, set up top decks, to hear about top decks. But at the end of the day, the faucet needs to turn on, and it hasn't, so I would say stay at locals, but it's going to play really low power there. Next up, we got Starter Deck Black Luffy, which is the one I did remember, and I'm excited to talk about from Starter Deck 14. Black Luffy is a 5-life leader with Dawn 1. Give all your characters +1 to their cost. It always is checking for you to have an 8 cost or higher character. If you do, your leader will have 1,000 extra power, both on your turn and your opponent's turn. So make him swing for 7 natty on your turn, make him defend for 6 natty on your opponent's turn. This leader looks to out the opposing cost-based interaction decks, especially black, by buffing your cards and also having other effects that come in with them. The Sanji from this starter deck is really good because it comes in, sees itself at 6, and pops a 5 or less. And the Nico Robin is one of the best reducers in the game and happens from an on-play / on-attacking trigger, so it even has game against Blackbeard. Before, when this was a meta call to out Lucci and his removal, now it can be against Blackbeard. They already lean very heavily into playing Kaidos and Jacks as the removal. They're not doing Lucci shenanigans. They do have Gekko Morias. They could call them a bit if they really care about it, or just say, we'll take the L in this matchup with it. But I think there's a world you lean into the Jacks, you lean into the Kaidos, you lean into the, you turn off Kuzan's draw, you still have Kuzan's play reduce. They were already playing Laboons in this deck. Like, they're playing like the Shirahoshis. They have weird tech in here that's like super cool. And I think like this is the opposite. So a lot of the other black leaders I'm excited because I think they play aggressively while maintaining and being able to leverage activate main and not rely on the on-play as much. This plays defensively and further insulates, and especially because if it's not Finger Pistol and it's not the event, if it's Dock Q, the one that actually puts a body on board, the accrues value over time, they have to get it to 1. And offsetting by 1 when they need to get to 1 is huge.
Yes.
And if not, they're not establishing a body. Like, they're just straight up like playing an event, and cool, you have no value body, you have no further activation value. I don't have to kill it and give you a card. So yeah, I'm pretty high on this. I'm gonna put it in a rogue. We're gonna do every other black leader that isn't Sakazuki and the Luffy we forgot about.
Yep.
And I feel really good about this leader like this is definitely, I think, my this is my sleeper against the data. Like Lucci, like the other 3 Lucci, I'm like, this is cool. I'm not saying it will like actually work, but I see the line here. This is one where I look at the data and I'm like, I feel like the data doesn't represent how good this should be. And maybe it's something I just don't understand about it. But I feel like this has the ability to get through. Also, you can play with the Frankie that can't be KO'd by card effects to get around Blackbeard, which is like really good.
Pretty good Frankie.
Smashes real hard. So yeah. Thumbs up from Mike on the Rogue.
And then last on our starter decks, or promo leaders, actually this is a promo leader, is Blue Luffy. Blue Luffy is a 5-life leader, Dawn ×1 when attacking. If you have 3 or less cards in your hand, draw 1 card.
Limited All-Star back in the day.
Yeah, Mike, I think this came from Pirate Party for a reason. It's just a fun, just a fun leader. I think it's just a fun leader.
Not Pirate Party.
No?
Seal Battle Volume 1 East Blue promo pack.
Oh.
Came for the East Blue, stayed for the Sabo winner.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
I thought this was a Pirate Party this whole time.
Nope. Good memory, it was like the 1 of 7 pack, remember?
Oh, the one that comes with the Nami.
You got 2, yeah. And then you printed the Luffy and the Nami and the PRB.
This is the one Luffy that was really, really hard to find. So people were spending literally $40 on this
70 at max, I saw.
My god.
Especially when like it started winning some like pre-releases. It's like, oh, well you have to like have this leader then, huh?
This is a good limited Luffy. Yeah, that's crazy. And then we made Sanji. Oh well.
Hey, but based on the video they said today, legally all pre-releases are seal battles now, and you're supposed to play with Rainbow Luffy. So if they keep giving the Rainbow Luffys, I'm demanding every store plays the Rainbow Luffy as they should be.
That makes sense.
Because I have to make a whole video about how Red Sanji is a ruiner of the format. Where does this Blue Luffy stack at?
I think it's unplayable.
Okay.
Personally. Yeah.
I think it's like meh. Yeah. I think it's like cute.
I mean, it's cute. I think it's cute, but like...
I think it falls apart with Blue not having enough like generic good stuff. So I'm gonna talk about Red Sanji, who's a 5-life leader, activate main once per turn, give a character that costs 8 or less rush that doesn't have it on play ability. So it works kind of like Vivi, because Vivi can give it on play ability once rush, which is like the big difference, but it can only give 8 or less because it costs 2. Unless you give something rush that's already on the board, in which case it doesn't need to get rush. This is the same thing, but it's just it limits at 8. With this leader, we're able to maximize red cards that didn't really have their time to shine because we're just breaking the convention of their design. They were designed to be played and have to sit on the board before leveraging their value. And the power of their ability outside of power scaling was designed to be, hey, because you have to wait, you get this, especially with like Dawn attacking type characters, right? Now you remove that, like Rock Lee removing the weight straps on his leg, and you're popping off. Like, it's not even like you're doing the most powerful cards, but the tempo swings generated by taking them off is huge. Also, this leader attacks. It means that with this leader, you will always have up to 2 attacks per turn if you have a card in hand, basically, that's a character. And you can also have more because you can play rush characters still. You can still just play like Rush Zoro in this deck, Rush Luffy in this deck. So you have turns where you're like, I'll play something, give it rush, attack on my leader, and then play another rush character when I had started with 0 cards on board.
Right.
So there's always ways to go through. I do think though that like, while the thing that makes it really good is pushing these cards unrestrained forward, there were very few cards that were restrained from being good that weren't just like, yeah, you're just not that good. Like, I don't even want to even attempt. And so your deck selection is very thin. It's pretty typical now. I think there's like the top ends being like reworked a lot. Right. The biggest difference being like they're playing like 7-beard now. And like most of the top end stuff is like not 7-beard rush anyway. It's like Dragon, which already gains rush. 7-beard, you're not playing for the rush, you're playing for the interaction. Things above that, like I see people playing Shanks in it, which is really cool, but obviously you're not getting that rush. Yeah. It's just another tool piece. But because of that, a lot of the power, which is in the early mid game, unrestraining those cards, your opponent knows what you're doing. They should not give you the opportunity to leverage the 4-cost Brook like crazy. They shouldn't give you the opportunity to leverage the Wapple like crazy. Like I play against them all the time. I've never dropped one as Doffy, but like it's just so predictable. Like, you know where your threat assessment is. You know how many cards you have. Like every time I play them, I literally get like a turn where like I'm gonna get him with the Wapple. And I'm like, cool, I'm gonna discard 3 cards to counter. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, because when I untap and smash your face this turn, I don't kill you, but I have too much life for you to kill me, so I just win virtually over the next 2 turns. It's a little too predictable. So because of that, I'm putting it a Rogue though still, because it gets around Blackbeard.
Yeah.
Inherently.
Yes.
And it's a red aggro deck which can just like cheese wins. I think the Doffy matchup is closer than people think, but I think the good Doffy players shouldn't ever drop them. And I do think it can get in on purple Luffy and punish it for taking the life. Yeah. I think Shanks is a little rough, but it can dismantle Shanks' board depending on which version of Shanks you're playing. Yeah, all the things in the bottom it can just scum, or not in the bottom, but in like top cutting and Rogue, it can scum from being a red deck alone, let alone the actual matchup of the card. Yeah. And now what you've all been waiting for, OP09, Luke, start us off.
Let's go. We got PB&J Luffy. PB&J Luffy is a 4-life leader, Dawn ×1. All characters get +1 cost. Your turn once per turn. When 2 or more Dawn are returned, add up to 1 Dawn back, active, and 1 rested. Really complex, but rewarding gameplay loop.
Yep. Notably, the leader can't ramp with his ability. It sees it on parity, but you can technically trigger the ability in ways with other effects.
Yeah,
to that make do it allow you to ramp.
To make it ramp. And make it ramp
I'll make you ramp, damn you!
Like, yeah. What are those cards? Zoro, the 3-cost Zoro, right? Gets, in this set. And then Black Maria.
Don't make me go hit the box over there. Have one. I'll go tap that one.
Don't do that one.
I'll go tap that one right now.
Tap that one. Is that where Black Maria is from?
Well, not that one you see. There's another one back there.
Okay, there we go. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
don't tap that one.
That's Wings of the Captain.
Yeah, that's why I was like.
And then that's 05, and then 02 and 01.
And there's no way.
I should probably put them up higher now that we do One Piece videos against this.
That's me.
Probably swap those shelves there. Yeah.
Either way, yes. Black Maria will see that your opponent has more Dawn than you, and then you will ramp up to that Dawn, and then you will return Dawn, 3 Dawn, right?
You will go above it.
You'll
gain 5. You don't match it. You gain 5.
You gain 5.
And then you also need to be ahead of them. But when you're ahead of them, you gain 5.
Yes.
You get ahead of them from that. You go to match them, and then end of turn, if you haven't used your leader's ability yet, it'll trigger and get you 2. You'll be 2 ahead of them.
Yep.
Also important is that if you play her on curve and you haven't ramped yet at all with the Zoro or with this combo. So let's say you're going first. You're on 3. You can play her on 3. Activate. Go to 8. Right. All rested.
Yep.
Go to end of turn, your opponent's at 2. You go to 2. You're like, Mike, I'm under 3 now. Why would I do that? Your leader triggers, gives you 2. Now you're at 4. It only works if you're 1 ahead. If you're 2 ahead, you'll just stay exactly where you are.
Yeah, exactly the same.
But if you play it on curve, you now establish the Maria early for recurring for everything else. When you use too many Gum Giants or anything else you need to use, you do too many minuses in a turn. And you get ahead that extra 1 if you don't have the Zoro, which is just super relevant to do that.
Yes. That being said, I think that this gets chumped by a lot of Blackbeard plays because of all your on plays on this leader and in this deck. I think that the 10 Luffy loop is doable and possible and very deadly in this deck specifically. And I think that it has protagonist armor, so it's really, really good.
So where are we putting it?
I am putting this in Rogue or Top Cut.
I like Rogue for this. I agree, the playlines are insanely fun and powerful. They're both. And you can build this in so many diverse different ways. There's like key engine pieces that you run, and then everything around it is dealer's choice, which can make that very scary, especially as the format develops. Yeah, everything good about Purple Luffy is in this, but it's in like a shotgun engine, so it can blow back on it certainly. But I think like you see the right matchup, and you top 32, you can even win an event potentially with this deck. But it has enough staying power in every matchup where I'm pretty happy with this. Yeah, super good. I think Blackbeard's the one deck that just scums it pretty hard. And the thing is, like, the one thing though is that it does force Blackbeard to start activating immediately because, like, even just resolving the Zoro on curve, the 3-drop Zoro, and getting that 1 ramp plus the 7 swing on that turn, pretty big. Where it's like I have to do that. But also you can just activate Maria, get ahead that way, and just slamming. Yeah, I don't know. The Blackbeard one's really weird. It's definitely disadvantaged. Yeah. But I don't know if it's like a pure out. Yeah. It's close. I think it's close. It's close. I think it's very close. 65, 35? Maybe 38, 42? Yeah. Or no, that's not even it. That's not even it. 38, 40, 60, 58, 32. What did that? So I meant to say. 58, 32. No, that's not enough. 42, 58. There you go. 58, 42. Yeah, correct. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Cool? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Next up is Robin, your 4-life purple-yellow leader with the keyword Banish attached to her. She also has a when attacking effect that lets you trash a trigger card from your hand to gain Arrested Dawn. While Banish is an exciting keyword for a leader, we do wish the leader had more life to, utilize the Banish over the course of the game naturally. So one of the things we want to do is see how we can preserve our life and try to heal with this. So of course we can heal with bombs like 9-cost Yamato and 10-cost Ace, which give us a really nice focus on what we're actually trying to ramp with this leader. And obviously our life is worth more across the game because we're playing a lot of triggers to fill the deck so we can keep activating the leader. So, even though we have 4 life, we're gonna actually get value out of that life instead of just adding it to hand. We're gonna get triggers for free plays, trigger for interaction, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And this kind of feeds into the pairing of the ability. Robin is a really fun playlines. I love building her. I think there's a few ways to build her which are nice, and I'm probably gonna play her a bunch because I'm a Robin stan. I mean, can't see it, but I'm a Robin stan. I guess I have others. I'm more of a Law stan, so that's what you're seeing actually, an Ace stan. But the problem is her on-attack ability doesn't pair well necessarily with the Banish in the way that Yamato's double attack pairs well with its secondary ability. And it does ask for a lot of resources for an effect you're only gonna use twice.
Yeah.
Right? You're gonna go from 3, you're gonna play a version where you're Dawn minusing a bunch, in which case you're probably gonna wanna insulate that with characters, not just the leader. You activate once, go from 3 to 4, tap at 6, activate again, go 7 to 9, and then you're not activating again. You're just gonna get it natty. So it just feels like we're giving up a life for an ability with Banish, and the ability just kind of taps out, and it doesn't further the Banish. So I would just keep it at locals. I think it's really cool. The Eagle Robin character is cool. You can scum opponents off the life like you saw me do to Luke. If you watched our stream from the other day, it's up on the channel. But yeah, it's just hard to be excited more than the flavor and getting to play a Robin leader in particular when it just feels a lot disjointed.
But Mike, haven't you tried playing with the Rebel Army decks? The Rebel Army cards?
That are specifically designed for the Robin leader?
For this leader?
I wonder if that was some kind of joke and it just didn't come across right in English.
I
don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not even trying to be mean. I feel like I'm being mean when I'm saying that. It's just it just baffles me. It just hard baffles me.
Yeah. We have Buggy, 5-life blue leader, activate main, you may rest 5 Dawn, and trash 1 card from hand. Play up to 1 cross-guild character from your hand. This deck is really, really fun. You have a really good matchup into Blackbeard, actually, which is really funny.
Yeah, it's kind of funny as hell.
Yeah, and most other removal decks, due to the large cost of your character. So most removal decks will have a hard time against this because you are playing 5-cost characters and up, just like they would have a hard time against Purple Luffy. They have the hard time against this deck. But they need to do it also. They really need to remove those characters because it feeds into your gameplay loop of needing those 5-cost characters out there on the board so that you can play your 10-cost buggies and have it stick, right?
EBO1 Dazbonzo coming in clutch here. Pretty sick.
Oh my god, really good. This deck is bad though. It's bad.
Wait, it's bad? I just thought it wasn't the best, but I wouldn't say it was bad.
I don't think it's the best, but it's not in its final form yet.
Okay.
Until we get that 7-cost promo buggy. Just give it to me, Bandai, and I will main buggy.
So what I'm saying, what I'm hearing is all the theorists need to be right. They need to go to Impel Down in the manga, free Doflamingo so we get a Doflamingo card to add to this. That's what we need, right?
That'd be really cool, actually. I'd like that.
The number of theorists I've seen that. It's oh yeah, they're gonna go get Doffy because they know he has information. I mean, it makes sense. If Crocodile and Mihawk think they could take Doffy, I don't know if Croc could. Maybe Mihawk can because he's Oda's keeping that shit to his chest, obviously.
Yeah.
How good Mihawk really is. But if Mihawk could take on Doffy, then trying to recruit him isn't the worst idea. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, keep him in check.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that this deck isn't at its full potential, or it doesn't get out of stays at locals until we get the 7-cost buggy promo.
That's fair. Yeah. I'm going to praise the producer now after we made so many jokes about what a ridiculous idea that the Revolution Armor cards are for Robin, in that he did confirm my theory, which is that Buggy is a complete flavor win, that he intentionally designed the Buggy leader to only work and stay on the field if you have 4 other things, because Buggy lets other people fight for him.
Yeah.
His whole leader is throwing other people out to go fight, and the 10-cost character says, I'll do an effect, but I'm going to run away immediately if you don't have guys, and then if you have guys to scare the opponent off, I'll stick around.
Yeah.
So flavor win, great job with that. That was so fun, when we got to read that on the reveal, and I was like, I think this is the intention.
Yeah.
And that was clearly. I only got the runaway part. I didn't really get the part of like he stays because there's people. I definitely got the runaway part, and then when he said it on the video today, I was like, that's really fun. That's awesome.
Thank you, producers.
Thank you. Lim is your brand new Odyssey archetype leader. She's a green purple 4-life leader with 5,000 power and a static ability that causes all your characters to enter play rested. She also has an activate main once per turn ability, lets you pay 3 Dawn to gain a rested Dawn, then play an Odyssey type character costs 5 or less from your hand. Odyssey is an archetype that looks to go big quickly while consistently spitting out mid-range threats similar to OP03's Iceburg, and a combination of Uda there as well from RP Uda. The leader balances her ability to spit out discounted threats by forcing all things you enter from the ability or otherwise to come in rested, all in an effort to get 9 or 10 Dawn quickly to start dropping bombs. This leader suffers from the first set illness that, usually comes around time to time where it's like, you just don't have enough tools. Like Blackbeard's in this thing right now, except for the power level so high in Black that we'll deal with it. Yeah. Where Ozzy's like, we only have 1 2K. We only have these 2 blockers. Yeah. We only have 1 bomb in our archetype, and it's not that great, so you gotta rely on the other bombs that have to come rested. More importantly, the perplexing thing of like, this is future talk, but OP09 just has variants of these cards that are infinitely better. They're not even different cards that are just better cards. Usopp in this is on play if you have a rest 2 rested characters, draws 2 trash 2. It's a 4/5. And he has a Straw Hat traded, so it goes with like Straw Hat stuff, that's a bonus. 10 has NL, which is a 5/6, so it can also be cheated. Draw 3 trash 2, so you go up a card, and you have a 5/6. Like, there's so many examples of this, and they get 2 2Ks in there. They couldn't just give us 1 of the 2Ks here?
Yeah.
Like, it's baffling to me why they would do this. For now, Lim has 1 route to victory. It is you build up your board, and we have a deck guide for Lim like we do for all the 09 leaders. Quick plug, you should go watch those. Yeah. And for Lim, I literally spell out turn, what the best plays you can do, because you want to replicate these turns as much as possible to win the game. You want to build up protected board to get to 9 Zoro, protect the Zoro while it's rested, and use 9 Zoro to obliterate your opponent's board or obliterate their life. That's it. Every other one isn't that good, and you won't be able to win otherwise. It's too far behind. When we get to 10, we'll reevaluate this leader. It has gas staying power. I'm so excited to cook with this leader in 10. I cooked enough on 9. It's just not there. I'm so excited for this 10. Yeah. Oh my God. But for now, this just stays at locals. It can definitely win games, but it's not doing anything hyper crazy. And it's really kneecapped by the fact that they gave all the good cards to set 10. Don't know why.
It's so you could buy it. If you're the lemon enjoyer.
Yeah, there's already enough good cards in this. So like, actually, we'll just tank an entire Rev Army's in here too, though. So like, didn't they already do that?
Yeah. There always has to be 2 losing colors in a set, I think. So
we got Yellow Robin though. Yellow's like pretty alright otherwise. Yeah, Yellow Robin's good. It's generic.
Sure.
Yeah.
1 card.
Yeah, the card's good. Card's really good. I don't know what to tell you.
Anyway.
Dershi's good.
That's a good card.
Yeah.
All right, now getting to the titans of this set.
Our final 2. Luke, start us off here, buddy.
Let's do it. We have Red Shanks, 5 life, red leader, once per turn on opponent's turn, give an opponent's leader minus 1,000 power during this turn. I think this leader is an evergreen leader with an ability that will always be relevant so long as other things don't power creep it. I think Shanks control will be a top contender for sharing a lot of the meta pie, especially with how easy it is to buy into the deck out of 09. Being able to control board with massive bodies attack power is very powerful in terms of carrying from mid to late game. And yeah, your playlines are linear, but they can pivot slightly to throw off opponents. You can still do things that feel impactful.
Building Snake and Hongo. Hongo real good.
Hongo really good. Your leader isn't as affected by Blackbeard as other leaders. Of course, like there are turns where Blackbeard will be like, okay, from this turn forward, we are going to turn off all your on plays, right? But at that point, you're also just like, it's fine. I'll play a bunch of large vanilla bodies essentially, and then wait until I have my 10 cost Shanks.
10 Shanks doesn't care. 7 Beard doesn't care.
Yeah. 7 Beard doesn't care. Goldie Roger doesn't care.
Goldie Roger
super
doesn't care.
Wants to be on that board. He's like chomping at the bit to be on that board. If you have a straight 50-50 into Blackbeard, and it could be a 60-40 in either player's favor.
Depending on each build.
Depending on each build, yes. And that player's like skill expression and their skill.
Of course.
Guys, this is a regional winning and top cutting deck. Yeah. This is one of
This is regional winning. We don't gotta say top cutting. This is a regional winning deck. Easy.
This is a regional winning deck.
And it's only getting better. Just like we said with Blackbeard, it's only getting better with this one.
In 10, we're gonna see the final evolution. Air quotes final evolutions of these.
Divine Departure, baby.
Divine Departure and the other card that we'll mention soon. But my goodness. I am so excited to main this deck. I am excited to see the stats coming out for it, except we don't have any 09 stuff for NA right now. We'll see.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why we make this video when we do. Yeah. And finally, Blackbeard. Marshall D. Teach, our final leader of this review. Blackbeard is a 5-life black leader that prevents you from using your own on-play effects. But he also has an activate main ability that lets you trash a card to prevent your opponent from activating their on-play effects for their next turn. This leader looks to become the new definitive control deck in One Piece card game, with a leader that stun locks opponents while pairing into black reduction and removal combos, literally turning off entire mechanics that your opponents are trying to utilize at your own cost, which fair, I think so. The one thing keeping Blackbeard in check is the fact that it's pretty new to the strategy for Black. Black has always been a we are comboing on plays. You know, I'm playing more. I'm playing more than like over and over again. Yeah. And Blackbeard says we're not about that in this house, son.
We don't do that here.
We don't do that here. What's a dryer sheet? That's a reference from my girlfriend who won't watch this video. Yes.
Just cares about
so you're no, it's something even better. I'll say
okay.
So you have to rely solely on the Blackbeard cards given in the set and the few nitpickings you have. Granted, one of those is Laboon. And Laboon is cracked out of his gourd in this deck. Like, holy shit, Laboon is so good and pushes his deck so hard. But otherwise, you are really relegated to the pickings you have. You don't have Amoria. You don't have Suru's even for like basic, chip in for discount or have a 2K counter, right? But even with this deck having extremely high skill requirement like Black Yellow Luffy, it is clear and evident that this is going to take over the space. Even like it's a purist control deck, which means you have to know all the other decks going on. So it's going to like reflect Sagazuki in a lot of ways, where the earlier we are in the meta, the worse it's going to do. But by the end, I definitively know this deck will be a regional winning deck. I also want to preface here at the end of the video, I maybe should have did it at the front, but I forgot because we were trying to get into this already.
Yeah.
But with there being less events for 09, the data will be like a little more wonky. I'm confident this one will still show it because like there'll just be like less data to draw on, and there's already so few published data that it's really hard to draw firm, hard conclusions. But on everything, not on some things, but on everything. But I think it's definitive that like week 1 regionals, top 32, just throwing out a low number, not exact, 10% Blackbeard. By week 3 regionals, 35% Blackbeard, right? Like it's just going to go up. It's not going to go down.
With the understanding of where the meta ends up sitting and where other decks end up sitting, and then those pilots then preparing for those decks, I can see that happening.
Yeah, and talking about like how we have to, and granted, Nationals is coming up, and that's like a whole nother can of worms, like how people prepare for that.
This is our first data point, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, that's also the weird thing, right? Is there like, Nationals is gonna have some of the best players playing, but it's also gonna have like people being like, I know these players have been practicing, but practicing sim and playing a bunch of real regionals or real locals like that have competitive players are two different things, and like you might just be able to get them on not having the mechanics down properly, right? Or not understanding your opponent's like how they visually mechanically sequence and being able to read like they're doing this, they must be indicating that. Yeah, is it like with less data points, we're just gonna not get the full scope of information. But Blackbeard is here to stay, and in set 10, we're talking about how like a main takeaway and the main opening with this deck is as a cobble together a few other cards that get around this stun effect to actually have a functioning deck that's powerful. And even though it only ends up being 4 copies, in set 10 we get Kuzan, which is an attacker that's also a combo extender, which means you are required to have 4 less cards to actually fill your deck. So that just inherently makes it so much better. And yeah, regional winning. We're in his era now.
This is his age.
Yep, this is his age. And that does it for our OP09 meta predictions. We will be back for real this time. Not for a bit though, because it's a bit until Nationals, and then we have to wait for a few more events to resolve themselves. We'll be back with the early, probably like first month, starting in January's data to kind of review, see how our predictions are lining up with what's happening, and give you guys an on-the-ground look at actually how the metagame is shaping up. If you have any more questions, of course, make sure to ask in the comments. For any of the new leaders or any leaders from 06 onwards, we have leader guides and how to play deck guides on the channel that will teach you how to play those decks. If there's a leader you came here interested to hear about, and you're like, man, I really want to hear this leader. Or maybe you weren't interested, like how I sold people on Green Purple Doffy. We don't have a guide on that. Before you say more, really just some people agree purple Doffy. You can go see we have a guide for it, and we probably have a breakdown guide if it's from 06 or later.
Yeah.
We have been here for 5 hours. I would like to go. Luke, anything else you want to say?
If you're interested in more fun One Piece content, please check out the channel, like and subscribe. Thank you to our members. Thank you so much. You make all this possible. And, well, good luck.
I gotta rip some ass.